So that Ukrainian president guy, what's his name, Zelensky, he called for NATO to engage in preemptive strikes against Russia to show them before, not after, what happens if you use nuclear weapons. And then everybody was like, whoa, that's a little overboard. And Russia was like, yo, that's a little overboard. And then he comes out and he's like, no, I meant to say sanctions. Impose sanctions. No, because we've already been told that if Russia uses nuclear weapons, it will be full-scale conventional warfare from NATO. So that's not what would happen. Sanctions, no. No, Zelensky, I think, was actually saying it's time for NATO to strike Russia because he wants war. He wants World War III. I guess he's saying, if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. There have already been a bunch of Russian officials, I shouldn't say a bunch, a couple, that have called on Russia to start using low-yield nuclear weapons. So that'll be fun. It's very important stories today. Twitter rolled out the edit button, and I'm having a whole lot of fun on Twitter, just editing away. And the other really big news, ladies and gentlemen, Velma, not only is she gay, she's actually black. Oh. And Shaggy, his real name, it's Norville. He's black too. You think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. I mean, this is like, they just released this, I guess, and now Velma and Shaggy are both black. And I guess. And they're making a point about how they're going to start changing things because the classics don't work or whatever. But, you know, I think this is an interesting culture war story. So we'll talk about that. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com and become a member to support our work directly. As a member, you get access to the uncensored after show, members only, Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m. And you'll also get access to shows like Cast Castle Vlog, Tales from the Inverted World. Plus, we got a bunch of other stuff like the Green Room show, behind the scenes, downstairs in our green room with all our fun guests. And you'll be supporting our journalists directly because they're only working because you guys are members. So don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about all of this news and more is Joel Berry.
Hi.
Who are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
I am the managing editor of the Babylon Bee. Am I supposed to move this
Scoot toward me.
Okay,
there
all right,
yeah, that's better, yeah.
See, as you can tell, I've done this many times. Me and Kyle Mann run the Babylon Bee. We also wrote the book, The Babylon Bee Guide to Democracy, which just came out. And you can follow me on Twitter at Joel W. Berry.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. It's going to be fun.
Thanks for having me.
We got Luke Rutkowski.
Good to see my fellow people of color getting some time finally on Scooby-Doo. The power's with us. Anyway, the shirt that I'm wearing today, actually, I made almost a year ago, specifically with, saying that at least we get a pizza party before World War III. It's very topical right now. You could get it on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. And, of course, it shows Joe Biden chomping away on some pizza. So yeah, because you get the shirt, I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
What's up, everybody? Ian Crossland over here. And yes, Cast Castle did go live yesterday. The best episode yet. Civil War, the culmination of a 4-part series. I hope you have had a chance to see it. I think some people with feedback said that it was lagging or there was buffering issues. So we're working on that. It might be a browser thing. Try a different browser. Try clearing your cache. And maybe we'll talk about Hunter Biden today because federal agency chargeable offenses with tax offenses. And I think if we do get into it, well, we'll save it for the show. And what's going on, Lid?
Yeah, I'm over here as well. Thank you guys for having me, of course. I'm pushing buttons in the corner. Tim got the ability to edit tweets. He's been having a blast with that. Go check out his Twitter for sure. Let's get into it.
I just did one last edit. Joe Biden is a bad president. And it just gave me a warning. It was like, this is your last edit. Stop.
Five edits total?
I guess. Is that 5? No, I think it's 5 edits.
5,
okay.
So it started with Joe Biden is a bad president. Then Joe Biden is a good president. Joe Biden is a child sniffer. Joe Biden is responsible for high gas prices. Retweet this if you think the noble rooster is the greatest of God's creations, after people, of course. And then finally back to Joe Biden is a bad president.
Like
and then when you tried to edit it again, it said, please stop, or did it stop
Please
you?
stop, gosh.
You can't do it anymore.
Okay.
You can no longer edit.
Full circle.
Give 5 edits in 30 minutes. That's the rule.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's the news. I hope you're sitting down for this one. Zelensky calls for preemptive strikes from NATO to keep Russia from using nukes. Okay. Whatever, man. Zelensky says it's time for World War III. Everyone should burn in a rain of nuclear hellfire. He didn't really say that, but he may as well have said that. Volodymyr Zelensky called on NATO to conduct preemptive strikes against Russian targets to prevent their use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine, which literally would do the opposite. That's it. I kind of feel like he's actually just saying, it's the waiting I can't stand. Just burn it all to the ground. Because no sane, rational person thinks a preemptive strike against Russia would result in anything other than them launching nuclear weapons. So
I think this is Zelensky was throwing like people in, like I think he shut down TV stations. The three largest TV stations in Ukraine. I think he had them shut down because they were speaking out against him.
And political parties as well that were
Yeah.
against him.
Yeah, he's not a good guy. He's maybe was an actor, so he's got some charisma, but I don't think he's like a benevolent president by any means.
During a time of war, all the rules are out of the window. So,
Yeah.
we have to understand we're not fighting for democracy here. This is not a democracy.
But he shut those TV stations down before any Russian.
I believe it was
aggravation.
I believe it was because of the war and the emergency powers that the government got. But again, all rules, everything's off the table once there's a war, and that's how he's treating the situation. His statements today, I mean, he's trying to, walk them back as much as he can. He's trying to say that he wanted to really call for preemptive sanctions, but there's a big distinction between preemptive strikes and preemptive sanctions. And he was specifically talking to an Australian think tank, the Lowly Institution. And these are big statements. The Russians are coming out and saying, well, these statements risk another world war. And these are very dangerous statements. And this is the trajectory that we are on unless there's some actual de-escalation, detente, and some real civil conversations that could actually pull us away from this lunacy.
You mean like Elon Musk?
Yes. at least he's trying. His proposal wasn't perfect, but at least he tried. At least he started the conversation. And now lunatic Lindsey Graham, the chicken hawk that he is saying that he's going to be taking away his tax credits, which he never got for his Tesla company. He never even had.
Someone's got to try. Someone's got to try to de-escalate. I guess I also wonder, like, why is he asking NATO to do a preemptive strike? Haven't we sent Zelensky like $50 billion worth of weapons? Why isn't he doing it?
There are 3 Democrats who have now publicly stated that the greatest national security objective for the United States is to defeat Russia in Ukraine. They came out and said it. We're at war with Russia. They're just playing this game. It's not for Russia's benefit. Russia knows we're at war with them. It's because it's illegal. Because what they're doing violates the Constitution. They did not get congressional approval for this. So they're going to dance around, like people ask, you've got U.S. personnel, veterans on the ground in Ukraine. We now have confirmation from The Intercept that U.S. boots are actually doing special operations on the ground. At what point are we just like, okay, dudes, we get it, you declared war on Russia?
Yeah.
But that's the game. Vladimir Putin knows full well what NATO and the U.S. are doing there. They're lying, saying it's just veterans being supplied and trained by us and then delivering weapons and training to the Ukrainians. The only reason they're saying that is because they're not legally allowed to do it, and they did. So criminals in the government.
Musk
that's new, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that never happened before. Musk made another statement today when he was attacked by the Kiev Post. He said, look, I love Ukraine, but not World War III. And I think that's the sentiment for the majority of people right now looking at this situation rationally, as we're not really, this conversation, it's shared about online, but when we look at the mainline coverage, this is not really talked about as much, as significantly. The corporate media right now is focusing on 2 Russians that swam to Alaska to avoid the mobilization. That seems to be the biggest kind of story that you see on the main headline television networks. But you don't really hear about the dangerous implications. You don't really hear anti-war voices. You don't really hear anything contrary other than we need war. Let's play chicken nuclear war because it's fun somehow. And that's insane.
For the record, Zelensky shut down 3 TV stations in February of 2021, a year before Putin invaded.
Okay.
And they were like pro-Russia, according to him. It was like, it's Russia. So they've really been at like a pseudo-war since 2014. I mean, since Putin annexed Crimea, that was pretty overt.
You guys know that the U.S. had an office of censorship during World War II.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Silence accelerates victory was their slogan. The motto, I guess.
Well, we put Japanese in internment camps too. I mean, we did a lot of
that's
stuff,
right.
as a part of the war.
Well, information is key. And, many times there was accusations against Germans. There was accusations against Japanese citizens that were providing allegedly information to the enemy. And the United States took it as far as to literally set up camps for Japanese people to be interned in, which was a step too far. And I think, during these situations, during emergency situations, we should always be careful not to take a step too far. And we have done it time and time again.
I'm watching this video, or I have been, of volunteers on the ground in Ukraine. American guy goes over with a helmet cam and he's recording it as he's running around fighting, like they're in combat. And they don't know who they're fighting. They don't know where the enemy is. They're just being told by a squad leader who's like a French guy or like some Ukrainian dude. They got a French. So they just go place, they wait. And then they're like, if someone tells them, speaking of information being important, if someone says that's the enemy, fire, they'll just start shooting. They don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many Ukrainian citizens do you think joined with the Russians? Something that they don't talk about in Western media, but of course they did, especially in the East. They probably said, we're with Russia on this one. Otherwise, I mean, they wouldn't have. It's just, I'll leave it at that. My question, and the reason I bring that up is, do you believe the Western media that Ukraine is winning?
This is, I think, a topic worth discussing because we might see opposing viewpoints on this as we were kind of talking about this subject before the show. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence. There's the understanding that there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of disinformation, but we also have to understand that the Ukrainians were practicing and drilling for this ever since 2014 on their territory. They have the latest technology. They have night vision. They have thermal. They have satellite technology. They have GPS coordinated weapons systems. They have training from CIA, covert ops, special forces soldiers that were there since 2014, setting up the groundwork for this invasion as the U.S. corporate media was literally cheering on and setting the groundwork to make everyone hate Russia. So this has been in the works for a very long time, and I do believe, from just my initial perspectives, from what I've seen, and I know people are going to attack me. I got attacked last week because I said the Ukrainians are going to take the city of Lyman. The Ukrainians did take the city of Lyman. But from my perspective, looking at the Telegram channels, seeing footage from the Russians and the Ukrainians, it does seem, especially right now, that the Ukrainians are getting back a lot of the territory and are having some significant victories against what looks like a disorganized force with the Russians. That's just my perspective and my opinion, and I could be wrong, and I know I'm going to get criticized for it.
I don't believe the propaganda. But it's also not the Ukrainians. It's NATO. NATO is winning back these cities.
Yeah.
And
that's
Russia's not fully engaged, as far as I can tell, from what I've heard. I mean, they have not committed their entire military. He just raised another 300,000 people drafted. I think they drafted. Conscripted.
Was that their first mobilization?
Well, in the mobilization, there's also a secret paragraph that hasn't been released to the general public. But also, Russia is facing stiff declines in their population, just like the majority of the Western world. Taiwan, the Ministry of Defense actually came out today and also said that they have a huge problem because of the low birth rates. They're not going to have anyone to join the military soon. So Russia is also facing a very similar problem. How many people are fleeing? That's contested. There's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of propaganda, and a lot of it is just centered around Russia bad. The war, they're losing at 100%. That's not the 100% truth out of the situation. But again, we're in a war. The reporting has been just propaganda, and that's exactly what it is from now on.
Well, do you think that it's possible that the fact that Putin is talking about nuclear weapons is a sign that maybe he is losing?
Yeah.
Is that? I think that's a better indication to me than anything coming out of the media. Just I don't know if he'd be talking like that if
losing though to the degree that he's engaged. I mean, the question is, has Russia utilized all of their forces to the maximum capability? Obviously, no, because they have nukes. And then the question is, okay, well, aside from nukes, then, are they using their ground forces? Well, no, they just mobilized another 300,000. They could certainly conscript more people, so they've not even maximized in terms of ground troops. And then it's, if they really wanted to declare full-scale war, I mean, they don't even have to use ICBMs. There's a bunch of weapons they could and haven't used. There was video going out of them dropping incendiary bombs on a city. Why have they not done that in larger numbers on other cities? Because it looks like Russia is actually restrained right now.
Well, it looks like there's a lot of supply shortages. It looks like a lot of their main routes have been met with a lot of resistance. And there's also a lot of video footage showing, Russians fighting with, regular red book bags, fighting with no armor at all. fighting with old equipment. So again, how much of that is propaganda? How much of it is real? But I've seen similar reports and similar videos from the Russian side showing them fighting, having victories, but still a lot of them are under equipped. A lot of them don't have any body armor at all.
I think there was an expectation that they would move in from the east and that the people in Ukraine would open their arms and be like, kind of like what happened in Crimea, be like, well, thank you. Now we're liberated. We're back as part of Russia. We used to, they used to be part of Russia before the Soviet Union was split up, all of Ukraine. But it was underestimated the amount of psychological propaganda that had been proliferated in Ukraine and pro-West, pro-liberal economic order, and there was just massive psychological resistance. A lot of people thought Zelensky was going to flee as soon as the invasion was announced, but he was like, no, I'm staying. Probably because psychologically he was prepared because of all this NATO influence.
But also, Russia hasn't fully declared it as a war. They're describing it as a limited military operation. So we have to understand, attacks on the infrastructure weren't made by the Russians. The Russians could take out the electricity, the power, the water, and a lot of other, especially with their control of the nuclear facility inside of Ukraine. They haven't done that yet. So I think they're still holding back some cards that will make a greater impact on this conflict, not just nuclear warheads, but a declaration of a full all-out war.
Let me jump to these stories here. The first from Daily Mail. Quote, use low-yield nuclear weapons. Russia-appointed official in Kherson calls for tough action from Moscow and urges the country defense minister Sergei Shoigu to shoot himself amid frustration at Ukrainian fightback. We also have this story from Reuters. Kadyrov says Russia should use low-yield nuclear weapon. So they're outright saying, use the nukes. This is interesting because I feel like nuclear war, man, if there's anything that would happen, that would make a great reset happen, it would be nuclear bombs dropping. But the question is this, what's happening in Ukraine going to affect the entire planet, or is it going to stay regional? Is it going to become something that forces the West to get involved, or does Ukraine just get, win or lose? I don't know.
When nukes come into play, I don't see how the whole world doesn't get involved. I mean, I guess one thing that does make me nervous is where's China in all this? When the nukes start flying, what does China do?
Well, sit back and laugh.
Well, yeah, they could, I guess, and just watch us commit suicide.
Annex a huge part of Eastern Russia.
Yeah.
Watch out for that.
Well, Kissinger had some interesting comments about China and how they're looking at everything that's happening right now. We also have to understand that Ukraine and China were very big trading partners, and there's a lot of economic interests that the Chinese have inside of Ukraine. So this could be one reason why they kind of stepped back a little bit. But according to Henry Kissinger, the Chinese gave the Russians a blank check when it came to this conflict right now. I'm not really seeing it, but I think it's in their interest for themselves to be like, you know what, we're just going to take a step back as you two guys beat each other up, and we're going to rise as a potential superpower, or try to rise as a potential superpower.
Well, that's the art of war, right? Never interrupt your enemies when they're destroying each other.
Yes, and there's been a lot of historical tensions between Russia and China. They have started to work closer together, especially with the United States becoming more aggressive against both of them. They started to share a lot of military secrets. They started to build a lot of military infrastructure together. But historically, they've been at odds, even when it comes to specific territory that they were threatening each other with just a few decades ago.
The Intercept report that I saw earlier, I think Michael Tracy was tweeting about it. I mean, that was just a kick in the balls.
What was it?
That the U.S. is operating officially. U.S. Special Operations and Intelligence are operating in Ukraine. So, that's it. They this is the game they play. The U.S. and NATO, they didn't come out outright and say, we're going to engage in war with Russia. They dropped news periodically. First, it was like, well, some people volunteered. It just so happens they're Americans. Then it's, well, we're giving weapons to, Poland, and it's being delivered to Ukraine, but it's not us. And then the U.S. intelligence helped Ukraine blow up the Russian Black Sea Fleet flagship, and then said, oh, well, we didn't tell them to do that. Now the U.S. is saying, well, yeah, we do have special operations on the ground that are ours, and our intelligence has been operating there. I'm going to tell you this. They're blaming Ukraine for the assassination of Dugin's daughter. Yeah. How long? Give it a week, 2 weeks, a month before they're like, oh, yeah, we actually ordered that. Or at first they're going to say, we gave them the information on where Dugin would be, but we didn't know that would happen. And then a month later, it's going to be like, yeah, it was us.
So basically what the United States is doing is handing someone a gun and saying, We're going to point it exactly where you're going to kill this opponent. And the only thing they're not doing is pulling the trigger.
That's not true anymore.
But some people, as you know, you would argue, they're doing even more than just pulling the trigger.
Well, it's like this.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
No. Here's what it is. All right. So Joel, you're fighting with your neighbor, and so I'm like, all right. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you this glass bottle. All right. Now you got that, but you know what? Actually, Luke used to work for me. Luke, you go do it. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
It starts with people are like, they used to be soldiers for the U.S. Army, but now it's just their choice to go there.
Right.
And then they have weapons that get supplied by NATO, and then eventually they're just like, yeah, they're paying us.
So
like, we're involved.
At what point does everyone figure out that just, when do we eliminate the middleman and just go direct at each other?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Look, just
Is that what this is all about? I mean, like,
if Joe Biden wants my respect, he'll come out and be like, my fellow Americans, of course we're at war with Russia. What are you, stupid? You don't think U.S. boots on the ground, funding, supplies, intelligence, and war? You think that does not imply that we are fighting Russia? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
But these, I think what you get from Twitter and from the media is you can really see these like psychotic fascist journalists will say whatever to keep regular people trapped in the dark.
Right.
They'll call you fake news, they'll lie, they'll push conspiracy theories, and then claim it's you doing that. Projection is the only thing they have. And the best part is they accuse everyone else of projecting when it's quite literally them projecting.
Yeah.
They're the fascists supporting the machine and supporting the war. Now we're facing the prospect of getting hit by a nuke. So I guess, for you guys, have you guys bought your potassium iodide yet?
I had mine many years ago as I was warning about this on my YouTube channel saying, hey, we're headed towards a conflict with Russia. Like 10 years ago, I was making videos about this. I was like, geopolitically, everything's aligning, everything's shaping up. As of course, this is not the first proxy war that happened between the East and the West. We look at Syria, we look at Libya, we look at Afghanistan in the 1980s. The United States and the Russians have always been at odds with each other, always financing the enemy of the enemy. And this is nothing new. But now I think we have really escalated it to a dangerous situation that implicates everyone in it, including everyone that's not even fighting. Innocent human beings are being affected by this in more ways than one, not just financially.
But what about other countries? I mean,
like Turkey, who's
yeah, exactly.
a military superpower. They're a nuclear superpower. They're a Russian neighbor. Russia
They're
cannot.
a NATO member.
Yeah, and they're in NATO, which is very strange. But Russia has no Mediterranean access with or without the annexation they're trying to approve without Turkey. So they have to be allies for this war to resolve in Russia's favor. But they're in NATO. What the hell's going on? They have nuclear weapons. What the hell is going on?
Oh, it's simple. Klaus Schwab had a meeting with Putin and Biden and said, we need to great reset everything. Let's pretend to have a war. And they were like, okay, that'll give us an excuse to launch the nukes. And then, I'm kidding, by the way. But hey, man, I can only say that Klaus Schwab is probably sitting back being like, this war is very good.
Yeah.
This war was inevitable. We need order.
Order.
Well, and how much of this too is driven just by the military industry? I mean, have we gotten to the point where just we always need some kind of a war? We had Iraq, we had Afghanistan, we got out of Afghanistan. Now it's Russia. After Russia, is it going to be something else? I mean, is it just a continual war machine where we're feeding this beast?
That's what Eisenhower told us it was going to be. And after Vietnam in the early 70s, there was just a slew of like military actions. I'm very in the dark about it. It's just they're so obfuscated in the Balkans, in like obviously Serbia, Kosovo, with like in the Clinton years. I remember hearing about Serbia and Kosovo and Bosnia, like there was just bombs going off. I never knew what was what, who was who. I just knew that we were involved in all this death. I think without conflict and places to blow up bombs with some sort of reason, whether it's fake or real, then the military-industrial complex will cease to function.
Yes, sometimes I wonder if all this money being sent to Ukraine is kind of like to help replace lost revenue from leaving Afghanistan and the Middle East.
It's like $100 billion on the books that have been sent over there. In the middle of an economic recession, they've sent $100 billion to some country that we're not even allies with.
And then what happens? They buy weapons from who?
God knows. The Chinese, the Russians. I don't know where they're getting the weapons.
Probably us.
From
And they're buying
Boeing,
oil from us. It's our own money being given right back to us.
There's a reason there's a saying that war is a racket, because it is. And the only winners of the war are the people who finance the wars, the people who, of course, bankroll the sides and sell the arms and the weapons. Everyone else loses. There's no real winners in the war other than the people who profit off of it.
Military-industrial complex grifting.
Yeah.
For them, it's like, we need to justify why we need more weapons. Let's get mad at somebody and claim they're bad.
Yeah.
And then go fight them.
Yeah. First, war pigs, right?
The recent U.S. policy is, hey, we're going to give these guys a bunch of weapons, and then a couple years later, these are the bad guys. We got to fight these guys with all these weapons. Saddam Hussein, he has chemical weapons that we gave him to fight the Iranians. Yeah. The Syrians, they have all these weapons. They have all these Humvees and trucks with American businesses on the side of them. We got to go fight them. They're going to attack and kill us. The Libyans, Gaddafi, he's a very bad guy. We sold him a bunch of weapons, but he's a bad guy now. We got to take him out because he wants to do a gold dinar. It goes on and on and on. And I can never stop the Taliban. Yeah. We got to fight. We got to fight the Russians in Afghanistan. We got to give them all the weapons. Oh no, the Taliban. Oh, they're bad now. Yeah, we got to go fight them.
I tweeted out a video of this guy who went to Afghanistan recently. This video on YouTube is called "Tourism in Taliban-Controlled Afghanistan." He went. He interviewed Taliban. He's like, "What do you think of Joe Biden?" And the older Taliban member who's doing the speaking was like, Joe Biden did a great job by leaving. We hope he never comes back. You can see he left us all this equipment that the Taliban is driving around on right now. We're very grateful for Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah. They love him. He's got a 98% approval rating over there. In Afghanistan.
They call it Independence Day, the day 9/11 when we surrendered.
Really?
The Taliban calls it Independence Day.
Wow.
When we surrendered.
The day that we surrendered to the Taliban,
Nice.
yeah.
Wow. Thanks, Joe Biden.
Yeah, we just spent $9 trillion making sure that we get, we replace the Taliban with the Taliban. Money well spent.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Oh boy.
We got him.
Oh.
Hunter Biden. Daily Mail reports federal agents have enough evidence to charge Hunter Biden with tax crimes and making false statement while buying gun.
Oh my.
Bombshell report claims decision lies in the hands of U.S. attorney in Delaware. Oh, in Delaware?
Oh,
perfect. They know all about the Bidens. I'm sure we're going to see Hunter held to account. And then, hey, man, the dominoes begin falling. Because once they get Hunter, he's going to squeal like a pig and he's going to be like, my dad did it all. He's a pedo. He's pedo Peter. Here's the laptop. Here's proof. And then Joe Biden's going down. Mark my words. On November 12th, the arrests are... No, nothing's going to happen. Quite literally nothing's going to happen. Hunter Biden's going to laugh at it. Joe Biden's going to do nothing. And even if they did charge Hunter, Joe Biden would be like, here's a blanket pardon, son. Free to go.
Yeah,
go buy a hooker.
I thought you were reading the latest Q drop there for a second. I was like, did he drop something?
This, I think, is a way to scare Americans into paying their taxes and not buying guns. I think they're going to make Hunter a poster boy for tax evasion and illegal gun handling. They're going to give him a slap on the wrist, but enough that's like... people are super afraid. They don't want to cross the government because the government is looking out for tax and gun crimes.
That is interesting because of all of the things they could have got him on to choose those things. I mean, those are relatively minor crimes compared to everything that he's done with human trafficking, crack, all that. The deals with China, tax evasion, buying a gun. That seems odd.
Yeah, it's just common. Of course, they want to scare people with it right now, and they're willing to throw Hunter under the bus, whoever they are. But like you said, Biden could pardon the guy. He probably won't. He's probably going to be like, well, he needs to, we got to make an example out of Hunter, but you'll be okay, Hunter.
No, he'll do it.
You think he'll just pardon him straight up?
Yeah, because Joe is not going to be, I don't believe Joe was going to run for president in 2024. He's going to be like, I'm out. I don't care. My kid's not going to jail.
If he pardons him, it will set an example that like paying your taxes isn't that important.
You think he cares about that?
No one.
Yeah, I think he's obsessed with making people pay taxes right now. That's why he hired 80,000 new IRS agents.
But he's going
to make an example. This is my projection is he'll make an example out of Hunter in this case.
These people are so
minor
dirty.
infractions.
This guy is so dirty and corrupt.
Well, he's not going to nail him. He's just going to punish him like he's a 17-year-old
Hunter Biden could destroy the Biden family with everything he knows. Joe is going to give him everything he wants.
I think Hunter's in on it. I think Joe will be like, we're going to make an example out of you to show people that paying taxes is important. Hunter's like, okay, Dad.
You think that crackhead is going to be like, sure thing, Dad? No, he's going to be like, no, I'm not doing that.
Because he'd go
don't make me go and talk to them because I'll tell them what you did with Ukraine and China.
But he'd go down with him if he did. If Hunter turned on Joe, they'd both go down. I don't think Hunter's too self-serving.
I don't think Biden believes in...
If he's going to go to prison and Joe won't pardon him, then I'll say, if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me.
I mean, maybe he'll get like 60 days time served in a cushy home arrest
Yeah,
crap.
that
with an
maybe.
ankle bracelet.
The gun charge, I'd be surprised. But yeah, if they give him house arrest, he'd probably be like, sure thing, Pop.
Yeah, doing crack in us.
Well, this is
Sorry, Hunter, man. Get off the drugs, brother.
This is the same guy that had Secret Service intervene when his gun was found in a trash can in 2018. Secret Service literally butted in and said, "We know this is a local police case. We're going to make sure we're involved in this." And they literally found a handgun that was registered to him in a trash can.
Which is like a
And he got away with it. Yeah.
Well, hold on. They're saying they might charge him. So
Not for that specific charge.
What is it for exactly?
He might not. I mean, there's talks about this. What is it? Attorney General or prosecutor? There's talks about this prosecutor being right wing, and there's a possibility of this happening. I think I read that somewhere.
It's a Trump prosecutor.
Yeah, that was appointed by him. So people are saying there's a small possibility here. But again, the system has a way of greasing the wheels here. Joe Biden is an extremely dirty human being that will use every illicit means to, of course, protect his inner circle. And I could see a lot of shadowy things happening behind the scenes, putting pressure on this prosecutor, being like, "This is my son. You don't do this." And then the prosecutor saying, "Okay, sure."
Do you think Hunter caves on his dad?
I think there's a theory out there that I think is plausible of Hunter deliberately releasing a lot of this stuff in order to get back at his dad for potential crimes that Hunter committed against the president.
Hunter might actually be the hero.
Yeah.
You know, he's like sitting there and he's being like,
That'd be a
I may be a
twist.
crackhead, but for the American people, I'll make the sacrifice.
He's good friends with Tucker Carlson.
What, Hunter?
Yes, look up Hunter Biden, Tucker Carlson. You could see it. They have a good
blowing my
relationship
mind.
with each other. So
Wow.
maybe, potentially, yeah.
He's like giving all this information up for money. That's that makes more sense to me.
Money, but also maybe retribution. Maybe there's something
He calls his dad a pedo, apparently. That was that one
that's
report.
listed as a contact. Pedo.
I could see like in 15 or 20 years after Joe Biden's passed away that Hunter is like does a tell-all story where he's like, he was abusive, he was manipulative, he got me involved in Ukraine, he put me in positions that I didn't want to be in, just demonizing. Look how horrible it was. Big sympathy for Hunter. Hunter runs for office, the Biden name, like crap like that. I can see that.
I don't
kind
know.
of
The
crap.
Biden name is synonymous with mud at this point because of like just everything wrong with the economy. This is funny. If you look at the polling for Democrats, the generic ballot, their polling tracks alongside gas prices to a certain degree. Now that gas prices are going up, Democrat polling is going down because they're the ones who are in charge. And when gas prices go up, this is most people. It really is simple math. Most people don't know, don't care, Russia, nuclear war, whatever. But I tell you this. You probably go to your friends, your family, and you're like, hey, this nuclear war stuff is serious. They could, we can go to war, people could die. And they go, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't care about that. And you're like, your gas prices are up 50 cents. Well, hold on. What? I noticed that. Now I'm mad. It's because of Joe Biden's war in Ukraine. And I say Joe Biden's war because I fully understand that Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, but Joe Biden decided to involve the U.S. in something that doesn't involve us. So that is his war. You can blame a lot on Putin, but why are we involved? So if you want to talk to people and you want to convince them to pay attention to this, you can be like, hey, your gas is going up because of this. And that means you can't pay your rent. You're not going to be able to buy food. It means food costs are going to go up. Labor costs are going to go up. And you can thank Joe Biden.
Well, he's burning through our strategic oil reserves right now, too. I mean,
man.
And he's just holding off until the election. As soon as the election is over, gas prices are going to skyrocket because, I don't know how much reserves we have left, but I think we're at kind of a record low.
So $8.80 gas in California last week. What the hell? It was 89 cents when I was like 18.
I mean, if you're looking to have some kind of large reformatting, this is great.
Yeah, like some sort of
Big
sort of
restructure.
massive
some kind
power off,
restart.
power on thing.
Yeah, a hard reboot.
A hard
It's a hard
Yeah,
reboot.
there
a
you
large
go.
reboot.
Yeah.
Turned out it was a massive reboot.
A gigantic restart.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm trying turning it on and off.
An impactful new beginning.
But we're still going to need oil. Even if there's a great reset, we
No,
still
not
need
if-
oil.
If they cut off the oil, I think like billions will die. Like within the first few days of oil getting cut off, 60 million, I think are the estimates, between 20 and 60 maybe.
Dude, I'm looking at this technology where a guy puts oil in his like deoxygenated pressure chamber, or puts plastic rather in his deoxygenated pressure chamber, and then turns it back into oil, and then can reuse the oil. Like,
Well, what kind of plastic, and is the video fake?
It was like
I
some
also saw-
Japanese guy from like 6 or 7 years ago, and it was on a small scale that he
I
was
don't
doing
believe it, man. I saw a video of a guy levitating objects and perpetual
I'll see if I can
motion
pull it up.
machines.
It was pretty basic, and I think it's still to be re-refined to be able to use like gasoline, but it was oil.
I think people need to understand too, like people like Greta Thunberg, when she's like, we have to stop the fossil fuels now. You need to imagine an iron gauntlet on her hand and her slamming the table because she's talking about killing people.
Mass genocide.
Mass genocide. It's called cutting off fossil fuels abruptly and outright will just kill tens of millions instantly, and then within a few days.
Well, they're already doing it with famine. But
give it a few years, and then there's going to be famines, power shortages, and you're going to see. Look, take a look at the population growth charts, and then right around the advent of fossil fuels, it just goes straight up. It goes from like a consistent 500 million people in the world throughout history. And then right before the turn of the century, it just jumps to the billions. And then it keeps climbing exponentially. And it's because of this massive energy rich product. If you cut that off, it's going to go right back down.
Here's the video. It's called
Bill Gates is like, yes, finally we get to do this.
That's why he keeps trying.
This is called Machine Reverts Plastic Back to Oil. It's new inventions, Machine Reverts Plastic Back to Oil. It's from about 11 years ago, and the name of the inventor is Akinori Ito. He was the CEO of Blessed.co.ltd at the time. The website now, that link is no longer working. I don't know what the status of this technology is right now. But I mean, if one guy in a small company can make this on a small scale, where's our industrial plastic recycling?
Well, we got a CBC report. Apparently, they're doing it.
Big pile of trash and these tiny pieces of plastic.
Is this what you're talking about?
I'm not sure if this
No, this is a Canadian company says they figured out how to do it.
That would be a diesel fuel that we're getting out of here.
Wow.
And a gasoline.
Gasoline from
In
plastic.
this case, this is the two that we've set up to do. Plastic is just like oil, and it came out of the ground at one time the same way. We are taking plastic and we are converting it using a process called pyrolysis, where we're converting it into a fuel.
So we know that Bill Gates has people who monitor conversations about him. So, of course, when the show starts, they tell him, Mr. Gates, Timcast IRL is on. Well, turn it on the TV. And now he's watching and he sees this clip and he goes, what? And then he's like slamming the table and he's going to call. And he's like, shut him down. We don't want people to live.
You solved my problem. And then you couple.
No. His problem isn't the use of fossil fuels. His problem is that the use of fossil fuels makes more people.
You're causing my problem.
I want to ask this question because maybe it's a little philosophical. What do you think drives this anti-human bent in these people? Schwab, Bill Gates, this
demons,
gravity.
I have
the pain of being sucked down to a planet. The physical pain that we've become desensitized to makes people hate themselves.
To answer your question, I think there's a combination of Satanists, demons, people with mental health issues, but more consensus, more in a more simple way. Throughout human history, there has always been someone trying to conquer the world. That's not something that's out of the ordinary. It is the norm. Whether it's Genghis Khan, Napoleon, Caesar, whoever it may be, they become so empowered by other individuals that power corrupts them. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And these individuals have reached such power, such wealth, that they are going along with what Hitler did, with what Mao did, with what Stalin did, trying to conquer and control human life for their own personal benefit. Sociopathic demons is one easy way to describe them. Another way to describe them is, of course, just saying throughout human history, there have always been these types of people that challenge us and try to conquer everything.
Yeah.
Alexander the Great, he was on a conquering spree going east, taking like all of, Ursa Minor, that Western Asia. And it got to the point where he conquered so much of Persia, maybe even all of Persia. And then his generals were like, okay, Alex, we've had enough. We want to go home to see our wives. It's been 15 years. You promised that, this is all about making our lives better. And Alex was like, we must go on. We must continue. And they fought and he kept taking them. They're like, we're done. And then one day Alexander woke up and he was very sick from the night before. I think they poisoned him. I mean, the theory is that his generals poisoned him because they couldn't stop him. Once you get into that state of mind, got conquering, and he thought he was the son of God. Like he was like educated by Aristotle. His mother told him he was a god and a god man. Like he thought he was there to conquer Earth. And the only way to stop someone like that, at least to his generals, was you had to stop him because he wasn't going to stop.
Why do you think?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I do think it's a spiritual battle, kind of that you alluded to. That if we were created by God, we're made in His image. And there is a Satan. You have to assume that he hates the image of God. He despises us, and I think if those forces are at work in the world, then there's always going to be those people who rise up and who kind of just naturally hate God's image. on the earth. And so it's probably kind of as old as time, like you said. It just takes different iterations, throughout history.
There's always some jerk taking a dump in the punch bowl.
It's got to be like fear.
And that's history.
Like fear of being attacked. Like what Zelensky was saying, we need to preemptively strike so that they don't attack us, like what the Romans did. We need to conquer everyone around us so that we don't get attacked. Because if you actually are attacked and your city's sacked, like Rome happened to Rome in the early days, there's took 200 years to recover from that. Like, it can annihilate a civilization if you're attacked. So there's this idea of I need to conquer the earth so that the earth doesn't conquer me.
Do you think we're bored too? We're so comfortable and happy, and we have everything we need, and mankind gets to a point where they just get bored, and we just have to destroy something so we can build it up again.
Life used to be about survival.
Right.
80-90% of your day was just wake up, work. Otherwise, you don't have food. Winter is coming. Are you ready? Now we've got heating, refrigeration. We can have strawberries in the dead of winter. We can have avocados, fresh tableside guacamole prepared to order in January. Now that's something to behold. Yeah. So it's just, we they talk about we got to end global poverty and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I get it, but there's no such thing as ending poverty, because even the poorest people in the world have access to technologies that were unthinkable 100 years ago. Not that they have consistent access to it, but even in the United States, the poorest person in the US can get clean drinking water very, very easily. You walk into a McDonald's and you're like, water, you're good. Try doing that in some other parts of the world where there's no water and they're desperate.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that also explains it, because throughout human history, when there was no drinking water, tribes used to kill other tribes. Whether it was Native Americans, whether it was Europeans, there was always someone trying to kill someone else for their resources, for their clean water, for their food, and for their energy and ability to survive as well. So this has been happening for a very, very long time. Now it only gets a lot more sophisticated. It only gets a lot more complicated because of these technological advancements that allow people to hide behind the scenes and to impose their will in a fifth generational warfare way, where people don't even realize that they're being depopulated, that they're being chemically attacked, that they're being castrated, that they're being taught and manipulated in a way that they become self-destructive and destroy themselves, as a would-be dictator is literally pulling the strings and calling the shots without anyone even knowing their name. I think that's a more likely scenario with what we're dealing with right now than previously in archaic times, where you would stab someone and you would go into battle. Now the battle, I think, is in our minds, and I think that battle is expanding in a way that that there's no denying that it exists, especially with the dehumanization that we have seen within the last few years.
Yeah, I was thinking about the ballistics and how they've changed war, like being able to not have to look your enemy in the eye when you kill him. But then I'm thinking about the Romans and how they basically genocided the Gauls. They went through all of France, and just millions of people were slaughtered at the hands of the Romans. And I think it gets to the point where the killers enjoy killing. Like they learn to dehumanize these things that they're attacking, and they enjoy the abusive behavior. Like, it's a powerful rush. You gain from it. You get food and money and jewels and women after you make the kill, and it's addictive. And
when it becomes easy for them, and they think about, these people have ideas I don't like. Hey, it's just that much easier.
Yeah. They don't even think of them as people, too. It's so crazy how the dehumanization can happen when you just call them savage or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they treat us like chickens. Yeah. Look, this is what I was saying this earlier today on my other show. The government deeply cares about you. Your government cares about you. They care about your well-being, and they want you to be healthy and happy insofar as you can provide labor for them. Everything else, your love, your life, your faith, your dreams, completely meaningless.
Right.
Yep. And if you get in the way of their labor machine, you are expendable. So they care about you as much as I care about, say, chickens. I don't want harm to befall them, but if I have to get rid of, a cocky rooster, he's going out to Cocktown or he's getting chopped up for lunch. They give me eggs. I don't care what else they do in the meantime. But if they start doing things I don't like, then you go in and you deal with them. That's how they view people. We provide labor, we do work. It allows them to live in their Elysium golden towers with golden toilets. But if we start acting out of line, speaking up and challenging their authority, the reality is we aren't chickens, we are humans, and humans are smart enough. So if there are smart people who can challenge them at the top, that's a problem. I got nothing to worry about There's zero chance Roberto Jr. is going to figure out how to come in here and take this company over. He's a rooster.
Near zero chance.
Near zero chance. There's a small percentage chance.
Very tiny.
But for human beings, when we do shows like this, the people who are currently holding the keys to the chicken coop in which we are all imprisoned, they have to be careful because people are smart enough to break free from that. And that means you ain't getting the eggs anymore.
That's why we have politics, because people are too smart, so we need a mind control system to utilize their intelligence without allowing them to seize control.
Well, and that's possibly why we've seen such a ramp up with what's happening globally, and the Great Reset and all this war is because of the information age. What's happened? This is the advent of the printing press. With the internet, we now have all this access to information without gatekeepers, and so it does seem like kind of the powers that be are very violently reacting to that.
Boy, do they regret that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But to add to your point, Ian, talking about politics, I think politics is just there to placate the population. I think it's there to just convince people that they actually have a say in things when they actually don't. It's like a Fisher-Price toy that you give to a child that you just distract them with, thinking that they're actually cooking a meal when they're actually not. I think that our political system is run the same exact way, and there's powerful people behind the scenes calling the shots, getting whatever they want, convincing you, brainwashing you, and screwing you over every single day, and they're doing it more than ever. And there was even a mainline study that we talked about a couple years ago, I think on this show specifically, talking about how our form of government is a joke. It doesn't exist. We don't live under a democracy. We don't have a democracy because special interests always get their way. What people want never happens.
Plutonomy. It was the
plutocracy, I think.
No, plutonomy was the report. I think it was from Citigroup.
Okay, yeah.
And they said the United States is not a democracy. It's a plutonomy where the wealthiest control the system.
Yeah. A great example of that is superdelegates. The Democratic Party, no matter who votes for what, when you go to the polls, at the very end, the superdelegates can come and be like, actually, we're going to make Joe Biden the nominee. Like, you're not voting for the nominee. You're voting for people that you hope will nominate the person you want them to vote for. It's not democracy in the slightest. I like this plutonomy.
Yeah, this is the document. It's the plutonomy PDF. Citigroup, equity strategy, plutonomy. Buying luxury, explaining global imbalances. The world is dividing into two blocks, the plutonomy and the rest. The US, UK, and Canada are the key plutonomies. Economies powered by the wealthy, continental Europe, ex-Italy, and Japan are the egalitarian bloc. Equity, risk, premium, blah, 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 blah. The plutonomy machine. Economy is driven by the wealthy.
That's China right now, the industrial wealth. Wealth is distribution, wealth is production. It's not about how many dollars you have. It's about what you're producing, and the Chinese people are producing like mad at the moment.
We're producing a lot of paper money, so there's that.
Yeah, that's good.
True. Yeah, we've chosen a private company to do that for us at their own discretion, the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Plutonomy is a term that refers to the science of the production of distribution of wealth. In modern times, Citigroup analysts, beginning with A.J. Kapoor in 2005, have used the term to describe an economy in which the rich are the driving forces and main beneficiaries of economic growth. Others, including Noam Chomsky, have used the term to refer to a nation or economy in which wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few. And there you go. That's where you are. And then they can use that for access, for lobbying, for manipulation, for media control. And then they create little underlings who go on Twitter and lie to you and know they lied to you. And that's it. It's just some people are just evil. Yeah, I was thinking about this when I saw I can't remember what I was watching, but they were like, Republicans are trying to bring about evil into this country or whatever. And then I thought about that. I'm like, well, they know that's not serious. These people know that they're the ones who are lying, because there's no way you can believe every single lie from the mainstream media unless, there's no way you can keep saying this and believe these lies unless there's something wrong with you or you're just pushing the lies. And so what I think is they view freedom and liberty as chaos and evil.
Yeah.
Whereas we view authoritarianism and manipulation evil. So to them, they're like, these people are evil. They want just chaos, people doing everything, and then it all burns down, and climate change and whatever.
I picture them like the guy in the basement that paints the little, figures. Nothing wrong with that. But it has the scene set up and everything just so, and everything posed, maybe like a little train set or something like that. And imagine if those figures were about to have agency or free will, and it's just the guy loses his mind. That's kind of they're people tinkering with a train set in their basement. That's
obsessed with
is.
order.
They're
Yeah,
obsessed
whereas
with order,
libertarians are obsessed with chaos. Maybe not, but I mean, if you become obsessed with chaos or order, you become very dangerous.
There's got to be a balance.
Yeah, there it does. Because too much order is show me your papers or get in the cell. Too much chaos is I lit it on fire. I don't even know where the fire is anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the really great and really bad thing about our current dichotomy is that in this larger war, people are literally killing and taking themselves out. It's a really bad thing because it's horrible to see, and you try to prevent it, but a lot of times it's very difficult to do so. But on another aspect, it's a good thing because at the same time it could be stopped just by information, just by knowledge, just by people being able to talk to each other in a transparent, accountable, full, honest, real, truthful way. And the internet provides us a small opportunity to do that, but it's being limited every single day because of that particular reason. This is why this move by Twitter, again, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think it provides a huge potential that could really upend and shift things. Will it happen? I'm skeptical, but I do see it as something that could change the world for the better as people realize, hey, maybe I shouldn't be hurting myself. Maybe I shouldn't be treating myself bad. Maybe I should start eating better. Maybe I should start working out. Maybe I shouldn't just listen and do everything that they tell me to do and I keep getting screwed over by it. And I think the more people have those conversations and actually open themselves up to fixing themselves, they won't be killing themselves and blowing themselves up, figuratively, mentally speaking.
Yeah, drug addiction, like, and I'm talking about high fructose corn syrup, sugars as well, types of drugs like that's something the government can't really kind of control it by banning certain substances, but the whole like obesity epidemic, because like you were saying earlier, the government wants workers. They want chickens that just do their chicken thing and lay the eggs, but then why are they letting people get obese? I think it's bigger than like economy is the market is stronger than our government. It always probably has been.
I mean, we have very few food companies controlling most of the food supply chain now, and they're very well connected in government, and I think they have a lot of power, over what goes in our food, over what goes in our, on our nutrition labels, and so I think a lot of our diet, our American diet, is dictated by the lobbyists for these companies in Washington.
I want to jump to this story we got from Timcast.com. Biden pardons federal convictions for low-level marijuana possession. Today, we begin to right these wrongs, Biden said. The pardon also applies to lawful permanent residents who have been charged with simple possession, as well as individuals who have been charged but not yet stood trial. Quote, as I've said before, no one should be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana. Today, I'm taking steps to end our failed approach. Allow me to lay them out. Okay. I agree with this. I said Trump should have done the same thing. I don't like Joe Biden, and this earns no brownie points as far as I'm concerned, because I think this is just pandering. But I still look, respect where credit where credit is due. I think they should have been doing this a long time ago. I think Donald Trump should have done it. I don't trust Biden to actually do anything. I don't think Democrats are actually going to take marijuana off Schedule 1. But what do you guys think?
Do we know how many people this represents? I mean, are we talking about thousands, millions?
I think it's thousands.
I have seen that at the federal level right now, there are 0. That's what I heard.
0?
I didn't check it out. For this minor thing that they're classing it under, what is a simple possession, there's no one, which would be really interesting. I did see a meme earlier today.
So this
about,
could just be a publicity stunt then?
Yeah, it sure could be.
I mean, what else?
Saw a meme earlier today about Kamala Harris looking through the blinds very sadly as Joe Biden releases all the people she was so carefully putting in jail for marijuana possession. Poor Kamala.
I kind of
Poor Kamala.
I know, poor Kamala.
I like the way this sounds, though I haven't looked into it yet. It's similar to that AI Bill of Rights that they proposed a few days ago. I think that even an incompetent government can get stuff right, and no one's pure evil or pure good. So in a way, I mean, definitely we should make marijuana not Schedule 1 narcotic. Completely insane. It's a plant. It's like an herb.
Yeah.
Just don't overuse the thing. It's a freaking drug. It's potent,
Yeah, the war on drugs is a farce that just abuses people that have substance abuse problems that are never dealt with and only made worse. And people are made harder criminals and bigger criminals just by going into our penitentiary system. So I think they're reaching in a bag. They're like, holy cow, we screwed these people over really bad. We robbed them of all their money. We robbed them of energy. We robbed them of any kind of potential. Let's just give them a little crumb here, and let's hope that affects the upcoming elections, because I think they are desperate. I think the war on drugs, just like the war on terror, is just manufactured to control populations. It's good to see a portion of it stop, but will this actually have real effect? Again, I'm skeptical.
Yeah, he's saying that he's calling on the attorney general to initiate a process of reviewing how marijuana is scheduled under federal law because it's considered more serious than fentanyl, which is just insane.
So crazy.
Yep. Why didn't Trump do it though?
Good question.
Bunch of size and
Ask him, I guess. Why?
I don't know. Bad
Did he
advice.
say he was going to do it before he got in?
The split between the traditional conservatives who do vote for him and the MAGA types who are more libertarian.
He thought he wouldn't get
Younger.
reelected.
I think it would have potentially split his base and been harmful to him politically.
He might not have won if he didn't do it. Oh, wait, he didn't
I
win.
don't think it would have been harmful to him at all. I think there would have been some people who would have been like, I don't think it's right to do, but there's no way I'm voting for Biden. You know?
Let the states decide. Jeez.
Like, do you think any Trump supporter is going to vote for Joe Biden for doing this?
No.
No, he's got to earn my respect in many, many ways more than one or two moves. The student loan thing, for instance, all of a sudden he went back on it. They were going to give $10,000 to everyone that has a loan. And then it turns out, not if you have a private loan, only if you had government loans only. Sorry. And there's so many people with private loans that aren't getting them.
Oh, they're going to walk the whole thing back.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's going to be like the day before the election is going to be like, oh, yeah, how about that? But like crumple it up and throw it in the garbage.
There was no public, I didn't see like a public press conference about not doing it. They just quietly were like,
That's what all this stuff is. He's just throwing stuff against the wall. He's going to keep doing that until election day.
It's because
to
he
try
can't
to
do
pump
it anyway.
He's got nothing else.
This is why we have this weird pseudo war, with Russia, because they're not allowed to do it. Joe Biden doesn't have the authority to forgive student loans. So naturally, within a month or a few months, they're like, oh yeah, he's not actually doing that. Like, imagine if Joe Biden came out and was like, I'm going to give everybody who votes for me $1,000. He can't. So it's like he's lying. People believe it. Mm-hmm. I guess that's government though, right?
What else is new?
half the time, at least.
I'm
Half.
reading.
That's generous.
I'm
It's a lot of like projections about what they're
half
going
the time.
to do.
Ian, are you kidding me? I just finally.
Yeah.
had
They'll be
all
like,
that.
did you wait? They'll say like, we're going to fill in the blank, and like, you didn't do it yet. Wait, do it, and then tell me you did it. Then that at least isn't a lie.
Well, it's like Lydia was saying, there might not even be a single person
Yeah, I
who
don't
this
know.
falls under.
I just pulled it up. I don't know if this is correct, but I'm hearing that 99% of federal drug offenders are sentenced for trafficking. I haven't fact-checked this, so someone could fact-check this, and that only 92 people were sentenced for marijuana possession in the federal system in 2017 out of nearly 20,000 drug convictions. So,
Yeah, it's like if Joe Biden came out and was like, all those, children who are negatively impacted by the alien invasion
Yes.
will receive $1 million from the government. You're like,
Exactly.
okay, but that's zero. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
we're helping kids.
Hey, man.
Right.
We kept
Yeah.
that promise.
Because people will hear this. This is brilliant, man. In terms of manipulating people, this is just so good. Announcing that you're going to be partying a tiny, tiny group of people, but then saying there are thousands of people who were previously convicted. Convincing people that you actually did a thing when there's no one that's for the most part being affected. Now look, to those 92 people in 2017 or whatever, I'm sure there was 100 in 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. So we're looking at maybe, several hundred people. I'm sure their lives will be improved by this.
hell yeah.
But he's not doing what I suggested Trump do, which was basically pardon anybody for any crime relating to any non-violent crime who didn't plead down. So that means if they had like large possession or trafficking, I don't care.
Yeah, trafficking for reference is when you have 25 kilograms or more or 300 or more plants of marijuana.
Here's what you do. Everybody who's been convicted for that, if they didn't plead down from a violent offense, they should have to go through a mandatory licensing process and then be released. That's it.
Yeah.
Like you were trafficking all of this agricultural product without a permit. So it's a $50 fine. Get your permit. Have a nice day.
get rid of the permitting system right away. I'm disgusted by that sound.
I'm just saying, like, the
It'd be
appropriate
better.
thing to do is,
Is let
it's
people
addictive,
be,
though.
and if they're not hurting anyone, if they're just deciding to smoke something or put something in their body, it's their choice and their decision. Even though they should be informed, though, that there are extremely negative consequences that we're not being told when it comes to marijuana, and marijuana is becoming more potent, is becoming more dangerous, and does have negative effects on
is.
some human beings. So people need to understand there's dangers in doing this, but at the same time, the government coming in and throwing you in jail for doing this is not going to solve the problem.
I had some old hippies talking to me about how pot today is nothing like it was in the 70s. Like in the 70s, it was weak. And they were like, yeah, so you'd smoke. And it was like, now it's just like, boom, this very powerful stuff. So maybe, we got to be careful about all drugs. But, look, man, my attitude is if you want to go into your closet and, smoke, inject, I don't know, whatever, as long as you're not hurting other people, I actually think that regulation is the best way towards helping people, ending the violence. By pushing it into the black market, you only create a space for this. So the appropriate thing to do, in my opinion, is legalize with restrictions. Yeah. If people are addicted to opiates, give them a space where you can go and help them and make sure they don't die from it.
Yeah.
Instead, they tell you, well, you might as well go hide in a basement. Now, when you OD, too bad, no one's going to call for help because they're scared of going. They're scared of going to jail.
When you can't get your prescription filled, you'll go down to Skid Row to find somebody with fentanyl.
Yeah.
You know, when they run out of their OxyContin or whatever, they look for something else because they don't. Yeah, man. But the thing about weed is it is legal. It is legal. I'm like, what am I? Okay, let's go with it. No, it's addictive, and mildly, I think physically, definitely psychologically addictive. And giving it to kids is messed up. I used to know kids in high school that I never smoked until I was 23, but like in high school, they were just slow and dull and like bored with school, and like maybe they were slow and dull and bored with school anyway, but they would be more slow and more dull when they would come into work smelling like pot. And like, weren't mean or anything. We're just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it should be just like alcohol, and marijuana does have some medicinal properties, but at the same time, there's also other forms of marijuana that will absolutely knock you on your butt and have very severe negative consequences, especially if you're a child, as it rewires your brain and predominantly does make a lot of people lazy. Some people it actually makes them energized. Some people it actually gives them inspiration. Some people it helps. Some people it hurts. Just like anything in life.
Lazy. When I went to Colorado, I partook for the first time. I remember having this thought, like, holy cow, this is kind of dangerous for me, because I right now I feel like I would be completely happy never accomplishing anything ever again.
Yeah.
Everything's good right now.
It's a big part of the transhumanist agenda is putting you in the metaverse on psychedelics.
They just want you sitting down.
Yeah, I'm surprised the government's not giving out free weed at this point. I see them doing this a couple of years from now, being like, yes, get high. Just totally forget about everything. Just go on the couch and sit there. Don't worry about anything. There's a nice pod next to that couch that we're also going to give you.
Next it'll be, what was Children of Men? Remember that movie when they were handing out suicide kits to everybody in the little boxes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're gonna try and create some kind of patentable derivative that they can control the price on. Oh, yeah. Then they're gonna say everybody needs this because it de-stresses, and then they're gonna say the government should pay for it. Everybody gets taxed without realizing it. And then they're paying for the $1,000 pills.
It's Marinol. It's called Marinol, and its international non-proprietary name is Dronabinol, also known as Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol. I guess they've pharmaceuticalized it.
Yes.
Marinol, Syndros, Reduvo, and Adversa. Adversa?
Whatever you do.
That's great, yeah.
Whatever you do, do not smoke.
It's a challenge.
Whatever you do not smoke the government weed.
Yeah.
Do not take the soma. Whatever you do.
Cheap and free, Luke.
Don't eat the bugs.
It's going to be insurance is going to cover it.
What was that movie? Children of Men?
Children of Men, yeah.
We're closely approaching that future, and that's terrifying. If you haven't watched that movie, it's soon to be a documentary.
Didn't you see the videos out of Canada where the guy's like, he calls the hotline and they're like, if you need help dying, let us know.
Oh, yeah. They were like pushing people to that.
Yeah.
Well, and we're almost seeing that a little bit in the States too, with insurance companies that will, they won't cover your surgery or your treatment, but they will cover, your what do you call it? Your death with dignity. We'll give you painkillers until you die. There's kind of that movement. Just scoop people along. Let's move it along here.
Wow.
And yeah, you see it. You want to know where we're headed in 10, 15 years. Look at Canada. Look at Europe.
Yeah,
that's where we're headed.
I think we stop it. Ethics oversight over pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies. Okay. I mean, it's got to be like governmental ethics. That's a big part of our government is ethics. That's the dudes that wrote the U.S. Constitution were ethicists. They understood religious and moral ethics, and that's why there were so many of them. They didn't agree on the logics and the literals all the time, but they got like the ethics for the most part. The slavery thing was still debatable at the time.
So I feel like the founding fathers really understood human nature, which is probably what made them strong ethicists. And I think you're correct. I think the problem now is that I don't think government ethics is ethical. I don't think it's ever a good idea for a government ethics board to oversee something like the pharmaceutical company. I think they're too tightly combined. I think it needs to be an independent outside organization. I have seen Marinol used. It was used to stimulate appetite for an older lady who was really struggling to eat. So it does have like good purposes, but it's not. I'm from Colorado. So I've seen what marijuana does to people. And people used to tell me all the time, oh, it can cure anything. It cures cancer. What are you talking about? You're just being a downer. I was like, I have seen it change people. And I've had people tell me, I wish I'd never started marijuana, or I wish I hadn't started as young as I did. It changed my overall life experience. Hugely negative. But that said, it should not be illegal.
I could say I missed a lot of opportunities because I was stoned, but that's blaming the weed. It was my own fault. Like, I had to make the final decision.
Yeah.
I could have went
video games. It could have been alcohol.
Yeah.
Human beings find something.
Yeah, but it was me. I made the choice not to go do the things that I feel like I missed out on. It wasn't, and I blamed the weed for years and stressed my family out about it. And then they started freaking out about weed. It wasn't the weed. It was me. It was my own personal lazy choice. So
you got to make sure that whatever's giving you that dopamine hit, it's a positive thing with the future. Yeah. I think South Park said it well when it's like they're talking to the kids about their future selves. Like, they hire this company that sends in fake versions of them from the future who are like, hey guys, started smoking weed and then I became a loser. And then finally at the end, Randy's like, son, there's nothing really bad about smoking pot other than it makes you okay with being bored. And then when you're older, you'll find that you're not good at anything. Yeah.
Plus, the government ships in all the drugs they usually have through the CIA, especially as we found out through the Iran-Contra scandal, and I could keep going. But there's also some other breaking news happening right now. I don't know if you guys seen this from the Associated Press. They're talking about how Biden, at a fundraiser in New York, talked about how Putin is, quote, not joking about tactical nuclear weapons. Armageddon risk at highest level since Cuban Missile Crisis. So these are words from the President of the United States, specifically talking about the dangers that all of us face because of his reckless foreign policy that has brought us to what he describes himself as Armageddon, which is crazy.
This is actually breaking right now.
Yep.
Oh my God.
So much so, it's one sentence. Biden, quote, Putin not joking about tactical nuclear weapons, Armageddon risk at highest levels since Cuban Missile Crisis.
So exciting.
Well, hold on. Maybe people might need that pot.
Yeah.
let's think about it.
Don't write that off too soon.
Do they have marijuana linked with iodine pills?
Right?
They're going to start giving out Marinol and potassium iodide, and they're going to be like, the first one is to help keep you alive by protecting your thyroid. The second one is to chill you out.
So you need to chill out.
Calm.
I think that fear of nuclear war benefits the military-industrial complex. So if Biden is functioning as a mouthpiece for that, or if he's just completely an NPC, just afraid of like normal everyday stimuli that like the more intelligent, evolved people can kind of see around and understand the basics of.
I don't know. The White House will walk this back tomorrow.
Yeah,
he used the word
Every day.
Armageddon. I mean, like,
time.
you know, Peter Ducey or whoever is going to be in the press. But like, are we headed towards Armageddon? Karine Jean-Pierre, and she's going to be like, blah, 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 and she's going to flip through her notebook and
then she's going to say something that's like, well, Armageddon, that's a word, and words have meanings.
Yeah.
And when a meaning is brought up, people have to wonder why. Because Armageddon, that's an interesting thing to say. And then they're like, okay, I don't, what? And she'll be like, I answered your question.
She has the Obama cadence. She'll be like, we very much does that a lot.
We
like
believe
Biden,
and the president.
Buttigieg
The president's been very
Buttigieg.
clear, and he's been very clear from the
That's right.
beginning about what we've said, about what we believe and what we want to do, and Armageddon.
But you're missing the snoot when she does it.
Yeah.
Barack Obama
Sure.
does the listen. But what she does is she does that and she like closes her eyes and looks down like that.
Yeah.
You're so stupid. You really?
I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Yeah.
Pete Buttigieg does it too. It's real annoying. Like Obama spawned a genre of politicians that say and talk like this. There's Karine Jean-Pierre, Buttigieg. I think
Edge.
what's his name? Buttigieg. Yeah, I
Those
gotta
are
say his
people
name
who
right.
don't believe in
Beto
anything,
O'Rourke a little bit.
and who are biding time in their mind to think of the lie. That's people who need that many pauses.
Yeah, that's what she's doing.
They have no foundation. They have no beliefs that just spill out. They just
Absolutely.
all politics.
That's how you know Ben Shapiro is the most honest person ever. He talks so fast. It's just like there's no opportunity for him to think of anything.
It goes straight from the heart out his mouth. Doesn't even
Yeah.
touch his lungs. Just
Yes.
I feel like that's actually a fair observation because he does speak very quickly and very directly. And I don't think that speaking quickly is a marker that you're telling the truth because we've known a lot of people who can really spin really fast. It's actually really impressive. But it's possible that telling the truth is just easier and it makes it quicker for
Yeah.
you to access those
Comes
ideas.
natural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice, right?
I found that releasing my past secrets on YouTube videos, it was humiliating, but I've got like 100 of them where I'm just talking about my past and my secrets, and all of a sudden they didn't pop into my head in the middle of conversations. I didn't have to remember or think like, was I lying or am I hiding something here? You can just kind of
Ian.
flow with whatever.
yeah.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to make me a promise. that if a nuclear strike is imminent where we live and there is no escape, I want you to stand atop the van, driving full speed, holding American flag while blasting It's the End of the World as We Know It by REM.
Go.
You like that song?
Well, I mean, for this scenario, yeah.
It's the end of the
It's a
world.
good
While
song.
we hide in the bunker with our iodine pills.
No, I'm saying I don't want Ian to die in a blaze of glory unless there's no other choice, but then it would just be the greatest endings, to any story ever.
Oh, yeah. When Power 108 turned into 107.9, The End, they played that song for 24 hours in Ohio, Northeast Ohio. What's up, dogs? If you're from Northeast Ohio in the 80s, you remember that night.
It was I remember, because I'm from Chicago, Q101 changed. It was like a rock station. It turned to like talk radio or something. And then it just flopped miserably, so they changed it back. But my favorite thing about Q101 is that I'm sure even today, I don't know, I haven't been to Chicago in a while. I'm sure they're still just playing Stone Temple Pilots. Like they never stopped playing 1990s music, like 92.
Part about that's the people who are listening to the radio. I mean, who else is listening?
They never
to the radio?
changed?
Yeah.
This is interesting. Cultural stagnation. Not just in that, because I grew up, you put on Q101 in Chicago and they're playing grunge and it was modern. And then 10 years later, they're still playing these songs with some new music. And then it's 20 years later and I'm just like, man, they're still playing, Stone Temple Pilots and like Pearl Jam and stuff. I bet they're probably still doing it today if they exist. I don't know. I haven't been there. But then I'm just looking at a lot of these bands. I talked about this a little bit the other day, that you're surprised they're in their 50s and they're still making new albums.
Yes.
And why is it that
311? Or I don't know if it's new.
Well, I mean,
Still touring.
yeah.
But yeah.
I mean,
But why is it that back in the day, at a certain age, the music stopped? Like you were too old and you were just like, well, we're going to shift, and do something else. They'd become record producers. They'd work in the industry. Now it's like 50-year-olds still putting out albums. Like, what is that? Is it because they don't have families?
Well, they did. Like the Eagles went for a long time. The Beatles broke up. The Stones,
but
obviously.
Obviously, the Stones, the
A lot
Beatles,
of times
they kept playing.
Death will change. Like Zeppelin lost their drummer, and they were like, we're done.
But I think a lot of it is that obviously if you're like the Beatles, you never stop. Your market is working. But a lot of bands fell out of favor with the current trends. But for some reason, I think it's simple. The internet. It used to be that if the radio wouldn't play your song anymore because it was outdated, they'd be like, look, people don't want to buy this stuff anymore. That was it. You're off the radio and now you're retired and now you're a has-been. These days, it's like, I got followers on Spotify. Don't need to stop at all. The radio is meaningless. So now it's just...
You can always be big somewhere.
Yeah, we went to Hot Top. We were at the mall and we walked past Hot Topic. On the window for Hot Topic is the Nightmare Before Christmas.
Right.
I'm like, yo, that movie's 30 years
That's
old.
from the 80s.
No, it's 90,
okay.
93 or 4 or something like that. I'm like, it's a 30-year-old movie. And young kids I'm like, everyone in there's a young person. I couldn't imagine when I was a kid walking into the mall and there was a store that didn't pretend to be a retro store selling everything from the 60s.
Yeah. Well, I think there's nothing, you talk about cultural stagnation. There's like nothing really new coming out anymore. Movies, TV, music, it's all rehashes. There's nothing original. Art's in a huge slump. And so I feel, people kind of are sticking with the people who innovated in the 90s, 80s, 60s, 50s.
There is actually a new show that I think is really, really good that I've been watching
Rings of
recently.
Power?
For no.
Yeah.
It's been a couple months now, and man, the stories are just compelling. They're funny. They make you laugh, make you cry. Starring Ian Crossland, by the way, Cass Castle. It's a great show.
I got emotional
Pretty
at the
smooth.
end. Did you see yesterday's episode? It's touching. We've integrated some powerful music. Just a great scene
ending?
with Chris and I at the end. Me and Chris, like a
wanna
leaf
spoil
falls off
it,
the
but-
tree as we're shooting. It's like a leaf actually fell off the tree in the middle of the shot. It was just so natural. It was so beautiful.
Wait, you're not talking about this week's episode. You're talking about
this
the
week's episode, like yesterday's episode.
Civil War.
Yeah, the end of Civil War. The shot is stunning.
Oh, yeah.
Stunning, cinematically
I don't want to
beautiful.
spoil anything for anybody.
But yeah, I highly recommend going to timcast.com and checking out the Cass Castle series because it is new and it's hot.
So people only watch what they already like. They don't want to see anything new. So that's why The Office just keeps getting replayed over and over again. So there's no reason to do things. It used to be that there was a finite amount of space and these networks were trying to be fresh by making new things. But now it doesn't matter anymore. Look, I just watched Breaking Bad for the first time a couple weeks ago.
Ooh.
And now I'm about to finish Better Call Saul, which, to be fair, Better Call Saul did just finish. But these are like old. Breaking Bad was old. It took me 10 years to watch it.
I watched The Sopranos a couple months ago. Loved it. Incredible. But again, just like you, It's all O.
There's too much existential stress on people to be creative these days. I think if you're stressed out, it's hard to be creative. Like in the 90s, people didn't care, man. They were doing heroin. They like they were just like rock and roll until they died. Those dudes, like.
Well, I also think too that with streaming and with the internet, content has increased exponentially. We've never had more volume in terms of content than we have now. But the talent pool for writing, acting, creatives has not grown at all. So it's all spread out more thin, so you have a lot more content, much less quality. And so it's really hard to find, The Office, for example, there really hasn't been a comedy that has come out since The Office that has matched that.
Well, there was one called
years.
The Office. Remember? The Office came out, and then they made another one called The Office. Yeah. What? The British one came out. It's called The Office, Ricky Gervais. And then they immediately remade it because it's like cultural stagnation. They couldn't even think of a new show. They just remade The Office. Yeah, but it was still good, but it was just a remake.
And it could never be made today. You watch old Office episodes, you'd never see that.
Oh, man, 30 Rock. In the first season, Tina Fey, she's playing Liz Lemon, says that she tells her friends she voted for Obama, but she actually voted for McCain. Imagine a modern SNL show where the main character says, I tell everybody I voted for Hillary, but I actually voted for Trump twice. No way they would ever allow that. That joke would not fly.
Yeah, The Office Diversity Day. I haven't watched The Office, but I just watched the small clip of that. That would not be okay today.
Yeah, I want to do for Cass Castle.
But it was brilliant and hilarious, and I loved it.
Some racy stuff. I think that we can.
We do. I can't spoil anything, but we do have. We have a special guest coming out next week, and we're working on one of the most hilariously offensive shows we'll ever do.
Yeah, I wrote a scene for it last night.
And I can't say too much, but it's in line with what Luke was talking about, Diversity Day. So it has to do with the company and how all the employees have to go through training, and it'll be really, really funny.
Dude, Cass Castle's legit, man.
It's going to be like shockingly offensive to a lot of people.
It keeps getting better. Next, I want to upgrade our sound quality so it's the same room tone everywhere, so it's like the same sound, you don't hear differences, and the same lighting. So once we get a sound and lighting rig, it's basically expanding. I think what we need to do is establish that it's good enough to keep doing, and then once that's established, we build out the crew.
I think we need a showrunner, somebody who's got experience having done shows like this before, can come in and be like, A, B, C, D is what you're missing, and then we're good to go. Consultant or something like that, or maybe something longer standing. But I'm really excited for. Currently, there's one being filmed today, like this week, which will come out Tuesday. But what's going to be filmed next week is probably going to, I imagine everybody who likes our show is going to absolutely love what we do. And then there's going to be a bunch of videos posted by a bunch of leftist organizations who are going to be like,
yeah, but it'll be so good that it's indisputable. That's the thing you want. I mean, I'm okay with people complaining about it, but it's got to be so good when you finally see the source that you're like, dang.
We got big news, my friends. Big news here. Shaggy's black. Shaggy from Scooby-Doo is now officially black, and so is Velma. Oh wait, that's the wrong story. There we go.
That's not it.
That's a bad one about. But here's Velma. Velma, I don't know if she's black. Maybe she's like Indian, like Mindy Kaling.
That's who plays.
But what the most, I'm really offended by. We have this discussing film. It's like a first look at Shaggy, Daphne, and Fred, voiced by Sam Richardson, Constance Wu, and Glenn Howerton, in HBO Max's adult animated Velma series. I just want to point out the most offensive thing here is they changed Shaggy. He's not. Norville.
He got canceled. He's fired.
Norville.
He's fired. Shaggy can't get a job. That's not. It's supposed to be Shaggy, but he's replacing Shaggy.
Okay. So canon.
They fired him.
Fact check for all the nerds. They did. I think it was in A Pup Named Scooby-Doo as a show. They established that Shaggy's real name was Norville. That's why they're saying Norville here. But why? And they made Shaggy black. Okay, look, I honestly don't care, but I have a point to be made. If they were going to choose any character to be black, I find it funny that they chose the stoner munchies guy who is considered a coward. And that to me is like, why not Fred? Fred is like the strong leader. Why would they? I think it's racist.
The progressives always end up being racist in the end.
Honestly, I just think it's really dumb.
What's on his head?
It's his hair, dude.
Shaggy did not have that kind of hair.
That's not Shaggy. That's
I don't. Yeah,
no longer Shaggy.
Couldn't they have given him just like hair like Shaggy? I guess. Why did they make? I don't understand.
They gave the Asian the red hair.
It's just. Look, guys.
They made Fred look like an idiot.
It's not Scooby-Doo.
Fred is going
Velma.
to be the idiot.
I think they even made Velma fat. Like not like fat, but they made her like
chubby with a little bit of fupa.
Yeah.
Yeah, little fupa and chubby and just real cringe. And the trailer for this is her basically saying that you can never change. She's doing a joke where she's like, you can never change things, and it's like everything always has to stay the same. And then she says something like, well, at least the character's still white, and then it reveals that Velma is now black or whatever. This is cultural stagnation. This is the death of art and culture. They can't make up new ideas. They've got no new ideas left. It's been 50 years. Scooby, come on.
Yeah.
And The Simpsons. Did you guys see The Simpsons where Abe is gay?
Oh my
God. No.
It's like
Good
he's
grief.
bi-curious or whatever. And I don't know. And then there's another Simpsons episode where Bart gets mad that they gender swap Itchy and Scratchy. And so then feminists make fun of him or something. This is, guys.
So why do you think they're doing this? Why do you think that this is? I mean, they're doing this with everything, every IP out there.
No, I think there's some 80-year-old white executive who typed in, Scooby-Doo into an AI script writer, and then it just spat out some garbage, and they went, run with it, and that's it.
It's a kind of a marketing ploy too. No one cares about a new Scooby-Doo show. I mean, but look at us, we're talking about it now.
This is crazy.
What they've done.
It's because people are permanent children.
Yeah.
Dude, I watched Scooby-Doo when I was really little, and it was okay. And then when I got older, I was like, this is really dumb. And then I liked things like X-Men. When I was real little, I was like, Power Rangers was fun. But then after the first season or whatever, I was like, I outgrew it, and I was like 8, and I'm like, I'm too cool for Power Rangers. Scooby-Doo was just not it. It was the same story every single time. We get it. Some dude's trying to lower property values, so he pretends to be Frankenstein. Them making a new show that's aimed at adults using these characters and then race swapping them is just we are desperate. We don't know what we're doing. We're going to try and do Ghostbusters 2016 all over again.
Is Scooby in this show?
They don't even show Scooby.
There's no Scooby-Doo.
Scooby is now a cat.
He's going to be a furry.
Daphne's Asian.
Scooby's going to be a furry. I'm calling it right now.
Why, they made Daphne Asian.
Okay.
A redheaded Asian?
Redheaded
no
Asian.
Scooby-Doo.
I don't see many redhead.
No, man. It's an alternate universe.
This is the
Different
most
universe.
disappointing to me because he's supposed to be a strong leader, a grounding force.
They made him a dope.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be a football star, right?
I don't know. He's wearing an ascot.
He's like 6'3" and muscular.
Yeah,
6'6"
but now
and
he
muscular.
looks super skinny, super soy.
Confused.
Probably has confused.
He's
dumb
usually
look on his face.
pulling Shaggy back from the brink. That's his main function. Is
Yeah.
hey, everybody, remember we have a mission.
I think
You made him unstoppable.
No.
I love the Super Saiyan Shaggy memes, though. That really is funny. So have you guys seen that video game Multiverses? It got a lot of attention. It's like Warner Brothers Smash Brothers.
Yeah, I have
It
seen
got a lot of attention because Velma's super move is to call the cops on you. But I will admit, when I was watching the trailer for the game, I'm like, oh, so Warner Brothers is putting all their characters into a fighting game? I'm like, this sounds dumb. And it's like Batman was there. And then all of a sudden Shaggy shows up and I think it's funny. I'm like, Shaggy fighting. And then someone knocks a sandwich out of his hand and then he goes Super Saiyan and I started busting out laughing. I'm like, okay, that's good. I approve. It is funny, Shaggy going Super Saiyan. So but this kind of takes away from that because I don't know who this guy Norville guy is, and I don't know why they're taking away from Shaggy's an iconic character. He's like the Scooby-Doo character.
And there's a show called The
him and Scooby,
Orville
obviously.
that Seth MacFarlane show is called Orville, and now they just call it Norville.
Fred's also demasculated. He's going to be a low IQ idiot who's going to be making a bunch of mistakes. He's going to be the
Sitcom
dope,
guy.
and he's going to be the loser, just like every guy who looks like him is portrayed on television.
How amazing would it be if Fred is no longer the leader, Norville is, and every time something bad happens, Fred's like, I'm sorry, guys, that was my fault. Or it's
he
like,
jumps into Scooby's arms.
he constantly does things where he has to check his own privilege.
Yeah.
He'll be like, let's see who's really under that mask. And they'll be like, don't pull off that mask. It's a cultural symbol. Jeez, Fred, colonizer much? And he goes,
I'm so sorry.
guys.
I'm so sorry.
I'm wondering now
guys.
if Scooby-Doo was like a stoner show back in the day, because Scooby and Shaggy were high as hell most of the show. Like Shaggy's talking to a dog, eating
Yeah.
Scooby snacks, and
He's eating dog
in the
dog
mystery
food.
machine. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I never understood as a kid. And then I remember when I finally got old enough and I was and I was told, you realize the whole gag is that they're stoned out of their
Yeah,
minds.
Scooby snacks are edibles for sure.
edibles?
Yeah, he's
no,
feeding
I don't
his
know.
dog edibles,
No, I
man.
think he's just
Could
eating
just be dog
drug. I
food,
think he's
yeah.
eating dog food.
Yeah, that's what
You got the
that's what you
munchies.
tell the
He's
kids.
high and
Scooby snacks.
Dude, they make
Like he's
Scooby
eating
go
dog
Yeah,
food.
they make him get like crazy powerful. The Scooby snacks would make him get like high. They make him kind of super crazy. Definitely drugs.
This meme crosses the line. You've made him unstoppable.
I love it.
Biggest
so much.
buff of all time.
If they can overcome the poor theme here and the writing's actually decent, it looks like they've got, I mean, Mindy Kaling's, I think she's a fantastic actor. So
pretty
maybe
funny.
she can pull, like this was a little, the writing was kind of bad. We watched this trailer and she's kind of phoning in the dialogue.
Wait,
like,
hold on, guys.
she's talking like this.
No,
and like
look,
this, and
wait,
like this.
hold on. She's dead. Watch. There's a guy.
Looks
He's got
like
a
it.
knife. She screams, and then
Maybe she kills him.
And then-
We don't know.
Oh, she kills him.
Yeah,
There's a twist.
Totally.
Dun dun dun.
Nice one.
what does it say? What is Scoob?
I don't
It
know.
says
Where does it say
Dinkley
that?
is crossed out. It says what is Scoob?
Oh, it's like a
Is there?
mystery.
It's the show's called Velma, so maybe there's no Scooby in it.
Like they're
There's
looking
an
for
eye,
Scoob.
Scooby. What is
Maybe they
Scooby?
haven't found Scooby yet, and
It's a
this is
prequel.
the prequel.
He's
So
missing. Yeah.
You know what they should do?
And then
They
these
should- they
characters
should-
all get
they-
killed,
they-
and then the real ones find their clothes. And
They need to make Into the Shaggyverse, and it's like all the different Shaggies from different realities team up.
yeah.
don't
Casey
give them
Kasem?
awful ideas, please. they'll
Someone's
listen
writing
to
that
them.
down.
Whoa,
right
whoa,
now.
whoa! Have you guys seen the Violent Night trailer?
Oh,
No.
Santa.
Yeah,
Die Hard
Oh,
with
I've
Santa
seen that
Claus.
one. That looks pretty interesting.
Yeah.
it's yeah, you're right. It's like literal Die Hard with Santa.
Yeah.
I think it looks like the best movie of our generation, and I'm proposing that we do a company-wide outing at 3 on the Thursday preview to go watch it. So it's who's it? David Harbour, and he's Santa, and it's just masterfully done. At least in the trailer, John Leguizamo's in it.
Yeah.
And you know, their politics are no good, but their movie, it looks really great.
They disappointingly made Santa white though, so that's.
Oh, no.
I was kind of
Wait.
into it until he punched into the Santa's sack in like a present shot out at him. It's like a
No. Where he has a knife and he stabs and it goes into the sack and then he pulls out.
Oh, it's got a present on the knife.
On the
Okay,
knife.
that's cool.
So basically, like Santa's doing his rounds and he's like half glazed over, just like whatever. And then he stumbles upon an active heist on Christmas. And then he's like, I don't want any trouble. And then he basically uses his Santa powers to take on a bunch of terrorists in a big house. And it just looks hilarious.
Well,
Like the puns, he's like, it's time for a season's beating.
Gosh, it's horrible.
I know, it's so good.
And then he shoved the grenade where the sun doesn't shine. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
And he runs away. He's like, wait, I got to see this one.
I'm excited for that.
This could be a problem though, because Santa's kind of essentially a god. Like, how are they going to give him an enemy that's going to put him in any real danger? Is there like an anti-Santa out there?
There's like in the trailer, it does
Krampus?
Teleporting. He can teleport if there's a chimney nearby or something.
Yeah,
He,
like how
escapes.
are they going to make him like a character?
I don't know. I mean, I just think it's going to be funny. Now, look. It is hard to come up with new ideas because Futurama did the Robo Santa trying to kill everybody, which is not the same thing. And there's another movie, I forget what it's called, it's from like the 70s or whatever, where there's a guy just like Santa going around killing people. But this is literally Santa Claus himself inadvertently stumbling upon a Die Hard style kidnapping heist because this rich family's got a vault full of money or whatever. I think it looks hilarious. So I'm into it, you know. Remember, what was that movie, Jack Frost? The snowman that was killing everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never saw that.
They're doing that with Winnie the Pooh too, right?
Yeah.
Like, are they making a?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, blood and honey.
Blood.
Yeah, blood and-
That's got a lot of potential.
So it is all derivative.
Pretty soon we're gonna have like a Peppa Pig or a Bluey that goes around murdering people.
Peppa Pig's Revenge. Yeah.
I think when I write music, I basically take pieces from a bunch of different songs I've heard in the past and then put them all together into a new song where you don't know that those pieces, like where they're from. So we're standing on the shoulders of giants.
It's all mashups.
Yeah, everything we do is a mash. Language even is a mashup of what came before. But you got to be so intricate with it that people don't know you're using past material.
Right. Like I came up with a show idea called Doobie Moo. And it's about a gang of young people that fight crime.
With a
and
pet alligator.
With a pet cow.
Named Doobie. Oh, it's a cow.
It's a cow.
It's a cow now.
And it's a cow. And now
Doobie Moo.
Doobie Moo.
Doobie-Moo, yeah.
It's an original idea.
Great.
Completely original.
I love it.
And the main characters are Red
Yes.
and Braffney.
They eat
and,
mushroom snacks.
Boarville.
And Belma.
The mushrooms that grow on Doobie's poo.
And
There
Baggy.
you go. Yeah.
The special snacks.
Man, it really is crazy how they just like rehash old things nonstop over and over and over again. Like we're on Fast and the Furious 10. You know,
Yeah.
They've got to use new technology. I think if you want to make new art, you've got to integrate like modern tech. Did you notice when the cell phones appeared, it took them like 6 years before they started making cell phones in movies because it was so cool to have a hero that didn't have access to the outside world, couldn't resolve he didn't know what was going on. That's the big part of movies is you don't know. So as soon as cell phones are invented, it like erases the drama of so many movies.
not only that, but you'll notice in modern movies, they'll have the cell phone to their ear. And then someone will say something like, I am coming for your family. And then you hear a click and a toot, 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 toot. And I'm like, that doesn't happen on cell phones.
Yeah.
That was like, and the crazy thing is, do young people even understand that? There was a meme that is probably not real, but it's funny, where some guy was holding up a floppy disk. And he was like, kid in my school just said, why did you 3D print the save icon?
I saw that.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, I don't know if that's real, but, you know, yeah, they have no idea. It's like they've not used these things. What a weird turn of events for our world, what the internet has done, you know what I mean?
We're very fortunate to have kind of seen both sides of it. We grew up kind of before the internet. We got to see it come into being, and now our kids just don't know a world without it. What's that going to be like, you know?
I don't know. I mean,
instant gratification all the time.
My entire life, we've had TV is ubiquitous. My parents were saying that it was like when they were younger, they didn't have TVs in their apartments because they were expensive and they didn't care that much. You know, now it's like flat screen TVs are in every room because they're dirt cheap. Maybe that's because they want to spy on us, though.
For sure, it's manipulation. Like the power and control a government or people have over people with the TV. If you can get
No, but wasn't there a story that like TVs have microphones and cameras spying on you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's. I think we went on a search for ones that didn't. And we were going around the specific stores and there was like one left. I was able to finally grab it and
no camera
buy it myself.
Yep.
No camera, no microphone.
Have you seen that cost chart? There's a chart going around the internet that tracks the cost of everything going back to the 50s and how prices have risen for food, healthcare, cars, houses, literally everything. Like 100 things on this chart. The only thing that has gone down is TVs.
Yeah,
it's like just a bunch of stuff going up, and then you have TVs. It's the only thing that has decreased in price.
Well, they also track what you
years.
watch. They also have a lot of data on you, your personal information on there. So this is why a lot of the TVs are so cheap, is because they collect a lot of data on you, and then they sell that data.
And geez, if you get people to watch the news, MSNBC, you have control of their minds. Like, do you find at Babylon Bee that you guys create news? Do you feel like you're creating new concepts on ideas? Because a lot of it's parody, which is like using an idea and then twisting it.
Hold on, let me just interject. You're wrong, Ian. It's not parody. It's prophesizing.
Can you tell us all the jokes that went too far that you guys never published?
Oh my gosh!
But maybe we could do this.
Maybe on the members segment.
Yeah. Like, what's the difference between parody and satire?
I mean, parody. I feel like kind of. Is kind of aping off an existing thing. You know, you have the movie The Godfather, and then you have Mafia, Mel Brooks' Mafia, that is a kind of a parody of that. Satire is exaggerating reality. I think a lot of what makes our satire seem prophetic sometimes is I think it's just the fact that there's nothing complicated about it. It's that I think we know the left better than they know themselves a lot of times. If you know someone's worldview, and then you also combine that with knowledge of human nature, if you have a solid, truthful worldview, it's not hard to predict what people are going to do, what people are going to say.
That and the Babylon Bee has a vat full of a fluid with 3 precogs floating in it, and then wooden balls carve out, the future, and then they say, "Hey, that's funny. Let's write that up."
It's actually a seeing stone, but pretty
seeing
close.
stone. The Babylon Bee staff put on robes, and they all stand in a big circle holding hands, and then the crystal lights up, and they can see the future.
That's right. Yeah.
And the future's funny. It's very funny.
It's hard though. I mean, we get a lot of feedback all the time. Please stop, because you're giving them ideas. Sometimes I feel like we're giving them. I mean, did you see the one recently? We did and it was just a throwaway joke. I mean, we call it the one joke of the Babylon Bee. It's like an identifies as joke. Blank identifies as blank, so he can blank. And it was like M&M's introduces new purple trans M&M that identifies as a Skittle.
Yeah.
And
they rolled out a purple M&M.
Well, a few weeks ago. Yeah. As a celebration of like inclusivity and diversity or something like that, they have a new purple M&M. So just stuff like that. I think we have like 80 close to 80 prophecies.
The Black Mirror, that TV show Black Mirror, the guy stopped making them because he was like, I think I'm giving them ideas or whatever he felt like.
I mean, that show is just like bleeding edge, just like, I love that show.
The robot dog episode.
I just rewatched the one where they're hunting down the roaches, this humanoid monster thing, and they're like, but they've got like AR brain chips. They're like augmented in the neural net, and so they see the roaches are killing them. And then one guy gets like knocked out of the net by this thing, and he realizes that they're actual humans that they've been told are roaches because they have a genetic deficiency, and it's this weird like story of like genocide and being manipulated by machines.
Klaus Schwab watched that episode and was like, that was good
I can't believe I did not think of that.
So do you think that you guys are giving ideas to the war machine?
Gosh dang, I hope not. I hope not.
I wonder about that.
I think that human nature is what it is. A lot of things are inevitable. And you're really just kind of you're watching the course that they're on, and you're just extrapolating it.
All right, we're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and become a member at timcast.com. We're going to have that uncensored, members-only show coming up at about 11 p.m. You don't want to miss it. Here we go. We got Camilla Mamani who says, Yo, Tim, I heard in my Argentinian news about undersea cables that Russia could destroy them for breaking communication or tapping them. Yes, that is a current fear. Undersea cables all over the place. I think there's like New York to Brazil is one of them. Crazy. Massive, massive cables. If you're worried about the pipelines getting hit, they probably won't destroy them. What you need to understand about communications is that in time of war and conflict, people want access to the information, not to silence it. So I hear this a lot from activists. They'll be like, the police are censoring the internet. They're making it so we can't share and live stream. And I'm like, no, they aren't. It's the congestion. The police want you to share information so they can intercept it and spy on you. It is bad. That's why they bring in the mobile cell tower trucks when there's high congestion at protests, depending on when they do this. Sometimes they do it. Because they want you to use your phone and talk about your plans so they know. Shutting you down would be bad for them. BC is me says, yesterday I saw a 70-year-old lady walking her little dog wearing an Ultra MAGA shirt. Made my day. That sounds fantastic. Grim Vale says, do you have any plans to ever do written fiction content on your culture platforms? Trade publishing is ultra woke, and there aren't many platforms where writers can just write good stories without the gender stuff forced in. Yeah, we were thinking about doing manga or something, graphic novels, in the weekly release style, but it's a very, very, very difficult thing to do. I don't know if we would ever do like fiction books or anything like that.
Salem Publishing, we published a novel through Salem, a fantasy novel, and got no pushback on any of the content from them at all.
What's the novel?
The Postmodern Pilgrim's Progress is kind of like a multiverse hopping, allegorical tale. Me and Kyle wrote it. But they're the only one I know of, as far as publishing houses go, they're the only one I know of that will really just let you write anything. You go anywhere else, you're going to have very strict parameters for what you can have in there, what you can't have in there, all the woke stuff. So it's, the publishing business is kind of a mess right now.
All right. Heron Gaming News says, did you hear Chicago held Slipknot at gunpoint? Do you mean that Slipknot was held at gunpoint in Chicago?
Or the band Chicago had a beef with the band Slipknot and they held him at gunpoint?
I know, because that's what it sounded like at first. And I'm like, I don't know if that would be a thing that, like,
Slipknot
isn't Chicago fairly old?
Yeah.
Yeah, Slipknot. They're
still at it, huh?
Yeah, and they're huge. I didn't know this, That's the thing. Like, very, very
Yeah, Chicago police held Slipknot at gunpoint, thinking they were this is from 2 days ago from Barstool Sports, thinking they were about to rob a jewelry store.
Oh, wow.
I wonder if they're in full makeup.
Does Chicago police still work?
Yeah.
They still do stuff?
Apparently.
All right. Grofty says, balk the buck button.
Buck.
Yes, please.
But this was in 1999 that this happened. 1999. This was 23 years ago.
Oh, geez.
Clayton Johnson says, nothing like an EMP to send us back to fighting with sticks and stones. Eliminate the enemy without the nuclear winter, weapons of the future. If an EMP, let's say the big solar flare blasts the Earth, massive one. Or how about, I got a better one. Let's say aliens come here, and then as punishment for teetering on nuclear war, they EMP the planet, destroying all electronics. How long would it be until we just make new ones?
16 days. until things are back to normal. If we don't have outside interference.
Can we restart the electrical grid is the question.
I don't know. It depends on the power of the EMP blast. I think you can either fry an electronic or just shut it down for a short period of time, but I don't know enough about the mechanics.
If the electrical grid was shuttered, there'd be billions dead within months, a couple months, billions.
They must have a backup ready to go.
Maybe.
Or something ready to like.
I'd actually be more inclined to believe they have underground bunkers ready to go for themselves than anyone else.
Like power lines underground connecting deep underground.
Faraday cage barriers and things like that to keep out the awful
underground generators and stuff that we don't know exist.
Yeah, I think water is probably better, right? Like water is a better protection against radiation. So like you could do a Faraday cage and then you can do an aquarium and then you can seal your electronics in plastic and then put them in the water.
Nice.
Yeah, water. There was a story I read about a scuba diver got sucked into an intake valve at a nuclear plant, was swimming around in the reactor, and you're fine because the water blocks the radiation. You can't,
Oh, wow.
Yep. Shane Templeton says, Joel Salatin needs to be a guest on here. Huge knowledge in the natural way of raising chickens. And he has a very interesting take on government programs regarding farms. Would love to see he and Luke have a back and forth.
Cool.
You know him, don't you know Joel?
I'm not sure.
Okay, he's great. He's a farmer, naturalist. I mean, he talks about like getting in the pig feces with the pig while he's working, and it's better for his immune system. He was very vocal during the COVID epidemic or pandemic, whatever you want to call it.
Michelle Grimm says it's official. The end of an age. No one has come up with an original movie idea since the 90s, I swear. Let's make Speedy into Jose Owens next and make him black. Just kidding. Yeah, I think about this when I think about Groundhog Day. Like, that was an original concept, wasn't it? Like, the day looping was the first time. Now there's like 800 movies that have done this.
Day loops, yeah.
Day loops. Yeah.
I like Napoleon Dynamite and The 40-Year-Old Virgin. I thought that was good. 2007, I think. 6.
Yeah, those were good.
Just like rom-coms.
Groundhog Day, though, even though it kind of had that original conceit, it was a very traditional story. It follows the kind of the hero's journey beat for beat. Same thing you see in Star Wars and all that other stuff.
Oh yeah, Jordan Peterson talks about like tropes and how there's only so many stories that can be told, and we tell like 17 stories. I'm just making it up off the top of my head, but like the hero's journey is one.
I no, that's not true. You can make up more than that. They just wouldn't be enjoyable. Like we wouldn't care about them.
We wouldn't connect with them. Yeah.
Yeah. A story about a guy who gives up everything to buy scratchers. And that's it.
Inspiring.
And then he wins. And then he comes back to, that's actually a good idea. A dad who leaves his kid to go get scratchers, and then like 10 years goes by and the kid's like, Dad never came back. And then one day he does, and he's a millionaire, and he's like, I finally won and I'm back, son.
I've been scratching for decades.
And his fingers are like, his fingertips are callous.
I did this for you, son. For you. And the kid's like, it wasn't worth it.
And the kid was dying of cancer, and the dad came back just in time to pay for his treatment. And then the dad has a heart attack, and then the kid, like the dad actually, no, he's got, I guess it wouldn't be mesothelioma, but it would be some kind of lung damage from inhaling all of that shredded scratcher particle. And then the dad loses. That's what it is. But then the kid sues the lottery for the scratchers, killing his dad, and then ends up getting $100 million. Oh, that would be a funny show. That's what story is that? That's not the hero's journey, or is it?
That's a tragedy. That's like Breaking Bad. What Walter White did with meth, he's doing with scratch offs, right?
Yeah,
it's a tragedy, but is it like
for your son?
Yeah, it's he did something noble for noble reasons, but he went about it the wrong way, and it ends up doing the opposite of what he destroys his life, destroys his son,
like Thanos.
Yeah.
All right, Triton54 says, on behalf of all South Carolina residents, I'd like to apologize to all Timcast listeners for Lindsey Graham.
Seriously.
He should be removed, arrested, and tried. I love Lindsey Graham. It's funny. I love him. He represents no one. He is anomalous. Like, even Nancy Pelosi has support from Democrats. Republicans don't like Lindsey Graham. Democrats don't like Lindsey Graham. What's he doing?
He's banging the war drum. When Zelensky said we need preemptive strikes, I immediately thought of Lindsey Graham. It sounds like something Lindsey would have said.
Yo, here's a good one. Alexander Crisanti says, I am deploying down to Antarctica on Saturday for 4 months, providing food service at McMurdo. Whoa. Will miss listening to your show. Also watch New York's midterms. There's a lot of support for Zeldin upstate. Should be close. You don't got internet down at McMurdo?
They have Starlink down there now.
Do they?
Yeah, he should be able to get.
You need a Starlink.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Starlink is cell locked. So they only work with specific satellites. So like the Starlink that I have won't work anywhere else. Yeah, it works within like a 500-mile range of the area. Oh, no. Actually, though, the new Starlink RV works everywhere.
Yep.
So if you're going down there, get Starlink RV. Maybe you can still watch the show.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. At the very least, you can listen to it. You got phones down there, right? Someone can just call you and then press play and leave their phone, and you can...
Smoke signals. That's how we're going to be talking in the future soon.
Smoke signal Morse code for every single word said. It'll only take 3 weeks to give you the full show.
Just make sure you bring your flamethrower in case anything gets thawed from the ice that should never have been
Adrian
released.
Contreras says $7.09 a gallon at the gas station in Hollywood yesterday. Thank God my company pays for gas. Also, Shaggy was named Norville in a show called Pup Named Scooby-Doo. Scooby's real name is Scoobert.
Scoobert!
The more you know.
Best name ever.
Scoobert.
Yeah.
I'll lay off the Orville references then.
Norville. Ryzen Tactics says Whitmer killed the elderly. Moderates in Michigan need to understand that they can vote for abortion and vote for Dixon. Article 2, Section 9, Paragraph 5 of the Michigan Constitution prevents governors from vetoing ballot proposals. Interesting. Free Men Die Free says, quote, we need a vast military-style campaign. Prince Charles to the World Economic Forum. The Russia-Ukraine conflict is intentional to promote the Great Reset. I don't know. That's a bold thing. I mean, Putin was on like a World Economic Forum website, wasn't he? And then he got removed.
Yeah.
Why? Here's a question. Why wouldn't world leaders be in on it? Why wouldn't all world leaders just hang out and be like, we're the best, we're the most powerful, we're in charge? Why fight with anybody? Why?
I don't know. It's a good question.
It's like they're vying for position 1, 2, and 3. They want pole position in the New World Order.
I don't know, man. Putin's like the richest guy on the planet. Wouldn't he just be like, I'm rich? Unless it's ideological and he's like, my people will not be subjugated, you know?
I think there's probably is a little bit of that. It's not all political. Yeah.
What do we got? We got some more super chats. Porkchopolis. Great name. Says, I just hope World War III holds off until after the Super Mario movie drops in April. Is that in April?
Priorities.
When's Wakanda Forever coming out? Is that this November?
I'll check.
I don't know. I will say She-Hulk today I give a C+.
Oh, better.
Really?
Well, Daredevil's in it. And Daredevil's a great character. And I knew they were gonna rob us of the scene we needed. So, spoilers, I guess. There's a scene where Daredevil is like gonna fight some dudes. And it's been years since the Netflix show Daredevil, and we got to see that amazing uncut fight sequence in the hallway. And so then a bunch of dudes run in, and I'm like, oh, this is it. I know what's going to happen. You think you're going to get an epic fight with Daredevil, but She-Hulk's just going to one-shot. And then sure enough, he like gets ready, and he like pulls out his weapons, and then all of a sudden the ceiling collapses, and then She-Hulk's like, heh. And I'm like, eh. Yeah, but it was good. It was good enough. And I think it was mostly good because I'm watching Daredevil, and I like the Daredevil show and the character and everything. Other than that, She-Hulk has been pretty bad. Pretty bad. All right. DD Megadoodoo says, aside from not getting a notification, had a hard time trying to watch this on my TV. The suggested vids were defaulted and had to type out the channel name completely. Must be a good topic. Yes, indeed. I think the reason YouTube's censoring us is because of the Shaggy story.
That's probably it. Yeah.
They were like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a touchy
If you Google search Velma, it rains pride flags.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's weird. Well, all right.
Velma Dinkley.
Joseph says, simmer down, boys. All they say is 4D chess. What does that mean? I don't know. Sick Commode O'Dragon says BRICS partnership includes Russia and China. She has more interest in Russia than the Ukraine. Also, Russia won't use nukes. They'll win without them. Maybe. Lance Link says Bush used tactical nukes in Iraq and no one ever said a thing. I don't know if that's true. I think the only time nukes have ever been used is Japan.
Are they talking about depleted uranium weaponry? Because they would make tank armor out of depleted uranium. It was so strong that you needed to make bullets out of depleted uranium to pierce the armor. And then they'd shoot it and they would go into the dirt and just irradiate the soil around there. It's still there, irradiating people and things.
Yeah, Gulf War syndrome. A lot of people have it.
So those are tactical nukes.
No, not really.
I mean, tactical nuclear weapons. I don't know how you would.
OG Lesbian says Hunter Biden, the real savior of freedom and the USA. Well,
Who knew?
well there you go.
There's a twist.
Leaking all this information on his dad. What do we got here? Rick Barley says, how you all feel about House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. I feel the first House of the Dragon shows how to have a diverse cast while remaining faithful. I immediately stopped watching it when they time jumped 10 years. Because if I'm going to invest in a show because I want to learn the story of a set of characters, and then you just end that whole story arc and then start a new one, I'm out. It's like, I feel like I'm watching the wrong show. I'm like, what happened? There was a conflict. Dude collapses, right? King, what's his face? Drops to the ground. You're like, whoa. And then the next episode, 10 years later, you're like, huh?
I heard from a lot of people that was pretty jarring.
Tons of people announced they dropped the show because of it.
I
There were
didn't.
articles.
I liked watching it, but I like being a contrarian, and I like weird stuff. And it's totally different. It totally catches you off guard. I kind of like that.
I like, it's Better Call Saul is one of the best shows I've ever seen. From start to finish, you can see how they subtly and very slowly change the characters and how the stories evolve. And the motivations are very satisfying. Like, you never get some weird Revenge of the Sith moment where all of a sudden, main character Jimmy McGill becomes Saul. He doesn't just go like, I'm going to be evil now. It's like, no, there's like a constant attempt at like sort of doing the right thing. And it's like a slow transition. I'm like, this is great.
I heard it was brilliant. What I want to know is what on earth happened between it? Because the Rings of Power, one of their main writers was the writer for Better Call Saul. One of the main writers. Yeah. So like,
I couldn't even watch 15 minutes. I was just
like what happened? Like what happened between Better Call Saul and Rings of Power? Like for that quality to
They
drop?
talk about it. They've been watching every episode on Pop Culture Crisis, and it looks like they're trying to mimic the way that Tolkien wrote his flowery language, but they're not writing it like Tolkien. They're just creating like
it comes
a
across
mockery.
like grade school philosophy, just like trying to sound really profound, but it's just silly.
Yeah, and then people get bored and are confused. And then they have so many characters that they're like showing you a little bit from these characters. You don't know who they are or care about them because you don't know who they are. And then there's just too many characters, too many storylines.
Yeah.
Kind of like the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that was a mess. Yeah, there was
Let's
nowhere
see.
for Game of Thrones to go because it's kind of a nihilist story. So there's no redemptive arc to it.
They should have brought Ned Stark back. The Red Witch should have resurrected him, and he reunited him with his family. I thought that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Or, George R.R. Martin can finish writing the books. Man, that show just went
he's
off
done.
a cliff. Everybody was watching it and talking about how awesome it was. And I was like, I don't care. And then one day, I think I was on a plane to New Zealand. And it's a long flight. So they had like 7 episodes of season 4, I think it was. I can't remember. And I started watching it. And I was like, this is really good. I need to stop watching it so I can start from the beginning. And then I binged watched from season 1. And then, man, did that show fall off a cliff.
As soon as they got away from the books.
Because they had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah. Same with Tolkien too. They thought they could write a show based on Tolkien's work with no source material, except these appendices that Tolkien wrote, and it just does not work. Does not work at all.
John Gagner says, I no longer get notifications from Timcast IRL, Matt Walsh, Steven Crowder, Blair White, or Joe Rogan. The war for your mind is real. You must be the notifications you want to see in this world. If YouTube isn't sending them out, then you need to take the videos and post them. If you'd like to help us, it's the only way to overcome the attempt at shadow banning is to just push through with a grassroots effort. That, and we're buying ads in Times Square, the entire North Tower, for on New Year's, and it's going to be hilarious.
What's it
Very
going to say?
excited. Timcast.
Oh,
And,
sweet.
when people are watching CNN, they're going to see it in the background. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, we talked about on the Babylon Bee doing something like that, like in California, putting up some billboards like on Gavin Newsom's drive from his home to work. Like Satan approves Gavin Newsom's new abortion policy, and have a picture of the devil up there or something. Just like have like one billboard after another, knowing that he's going to drive by them all. I think that was inspired by you a little bit because you were like you really
The Taylor
like
Lorenz
billboards.
thing?
What's that?
The Taylor Lorenz thing?
Yeah.
I tweeted
was
kind of
great.
as a, I don't remember why I was thinking that. I was like, do I got to buy a billboard in Times Square saying that she did this so that people get it? And then Jeremy Boring at the Daily Wire was like, I'm down. I'll get in on this. And then we did. And then they went nuts over there.
I love stunts like that. It's great.
Yeah. And then I was just like, I wonder why there are so many more people who have way more money than I do who don't try to just push back on this culture and they just don't care. And
because they're rich, bitch. They don't want to. I don't know, man. It's like risk. A lot of people are risk averse. So someone was saying when they have kids, when people have kids, you get more conservative too. And
what do they do? Like I was watching Trevor Noah quits, right? And I read that his salary was $16 million per year. And I'm like, homeboy's getting more than $1 million a month. What does he do with all that money? Like at a certain point, you're just like, I have too much money. Does he just like give it to needy kids? Because you don't see it. Now, I'm not trying to rag on Trevor Noah for that. I'm just saying like very, very wealthy people and you never see. So what do? Do they just like give it to a wealth manager and say, figure it out, I guess? That seems just so boring.
Lame. Yeah. I mean, this idea that your money has to make money. I mean, if you're that rich, you don't need more money. I don't see why you wouldn't dump it into things that create cultural capital. You know, it's rewarding to see the culture move. You know what I mean? Why aren't more investors doing that?
Don't people want to do
invest
things?
in movies, invest in TV shows?
Unfortunately, a lot of people, very, very rich people do, called impact investment, you know, billionaires.
Yeah, but it's all leftists.
Yeah.
There's like, Peter Thiel's doing some stuff. But man, I got to tell you, if I had $1 billion, let alone 5 to 20, I'd be funding crazy stuff.
Boy and Slat,
you know what I would do? If I had $1 billion, I would set up a table. I would get, obviously, security guards. And then I would let people line up outside and come in one at a time with their proposals. And I'd just be writing checks. I'd be like,
like Shark Tank. You should do a show
not even like
that.
Shark
That'd be
Tank.
funny.
I'd just be like, what's your idea? And the guy's like, I want to open a bacon store. What's that? It sells bacon. Anything else? Just bacon. Done. How much do you need? There you go. Have a nice day.
You should
and like,
do that.
you know,
That'd be
obviously,
funny.
I get a percentage of the company. It's an investment.
Yeah.
But like, roll with it, man.
Yeah.
Just do fun stuff.
Why not?
I would put money in. I would like hire a bunch of people and be like, let's make a graphic novel publishing arm. You know, so we're trying to do this stuff, obviously. But I wish I made a fraction of the money some of these guys make. But what do they do with it all? Especially the ones who complain about the culture war and are concerned about free speech. I'm like, bro, you got $1 billion. You could fart and impact media. Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post.
Yep.
We don't got it. Come on, man.
And not only that, but there's people are starving for that. People are starving for good stories because they just don't exist anymore.
I was talking about how I wanted to open a cafe and then open it up next to Starbucks and then do like a really great co-op deal where we just like pay the staff really, really well and then convince everyone to quit Starbucks and come work for us. We will be not woke and we will pay way better than all of these mega corporations because our end goal won't be to just generate massive profits for the shareholders. It will be to push back on the culture and make a statement. To all of these companies that want to engage in this weird cult-like woke behavior, we will make a competitive market option where people won't want to work for you and won't want to buy from you. Mm-hmm. But I can't do that right now because that requires a lot of money. So where are the mega wealthy? Like Trump could do this.
Yeah.
You know, Trump could, but
he did start Truth Social.
He made Truth Social.
Sure.
But he took a lot of donations and hasn't really done much with it.
That's just so weird to me. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm crazy. We had someone on the show who said that, power likes to be hidden. And I'm like, that's really it. People don't want anyone to know that they, and I totally get it.
Yeah, that was Tucker Max. That was a good conversation.
Right. Because there are people, I got to tell you, when people find out you're successful, they crawl out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine what it must be like for someone who wins the lottery. I read a story about a dude in India who won the lottery and then people started like harassing him and targeting his family, demanding money, just crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. Dude, I watched a Mr. Beast video where they did that thing where it's like you got to put your hand on the $1 million and whoever's the last person wins it. And then guys like, I promise 50 grand to this person, that person. I'm like, dude, you're going to get a phone call from every single person you've ever met talking about how you're their best friend and they always believed in you and now they need 50 grand.
Yeah.
That's the way it works, man.
Messes up your life.
But that's why people try to keep it a secret. That's why a lot of people, they win the lottery, they don't want anyone to know. That's probably why a lot of these, well-off individuals don't buy billboards in Times Square. They don't want to make themselves, the center of attention or anything like that.
But they could finance someone else that pushes the same messages and morals.
Through a foundation they start and give money to.
There is that one that I'm thinking of.
We got George Soros doing this like crazy. You got Mackenzie Bezos and Jeff Bezos both doing
Bill
it.
Gates.
Bill Gates. Where is anybody else?
Have you heard of you've probably seen the billboards, the values, pass it on. Like, courage, pass it on,
I've seen those.
Thankfulness, pass it on. And it's just a billboard. It has a character quality and maybe like an inspiring figure. that whole campaign is just financed by some like billionaire who lives in Colorado.
That's nice.
That just like I want to make the world better, and I want to make people better. So they just purchase billboards everywhere.
Very cool.
I don't know if it's moving the needle at all, but there's an example of it.
I think billboards aren't particularly effective. The thing about Times Square is it has a decent amount of a decent effect, and it was kind of just to make a statement like we can do this.
Gets people talking about it.
Well, it's that we have come to the point of success where we rival you. You are not the elites anymore. We are here, and that's why we decided against doing any hard political messaging that was like directly attacking the establishment. What the closest we get to is Michael Malice's quote on the Times Square billboard saying, the corporate press gives you the narrative, Timcast gives you the news. And we talked about it, and it's like, if you create an ad that insults the establishment, you are setting yourself apart and telling regular people you are not a part of the machine. You are not rivaling them. If you just put your ads up there, you're just sitting there next to Coca-Cola and M&M. People are going to associate you with dominant culture, and that's the goal. The goal is to just tell people, we are winning. We are here. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. You're gonna hear more from us.
And you do feel that you feel that the dominant culture and this legacy media. I watched a late night comedy show last night for like the first time in years because I was in a hotel, and that's there's nothing else to watch. It is so sad. It seems so. It's just empty. The laughs are not there anymore. You do get the sense that this legacy media that ruled the airwaves for 50, 60 years is really dying. There's just nothing left. No one's watching this stuff anymore.
I got that with Colbert. I don't know which one.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I watched Colbert and I watched Seth Meyers, and it was just sad.
It was politics.
Yeah, it was politics. It wasn't funny. The guests weren't funny, and I'm wondering who's watching this stuff. And like Greg Gutfeld on Fox News is beating them in the ratings, and
yeah.
There are YouTube channels that are beating him in the ratings, and so you really do get the sense that it's they're on their way out.
We were getting more views on our show than Trevor Noah was getting on his show.
Yeah.
But he was getting more YouTube views on the clips from his show than our clips got on this show. So it was interesting. For, like, if you were to compare this live show to his show, granted, I guess his show is shorter. So you can argue that, there's a way to argue he was doing better, I suppose.
And YouTube probably promotes it too. I mean.
Oh, that's the thing about him, CNN, and all they're just getting pushed
exactly.
up. We're fighting against the censorship. They're getting actively promoted.
Yep.
I'd rather listen to
let's grab. We just got to grab one more.
House. Yeah, okay.
One more super chat. Marked Ashamed says F in the chat for Rekieta Law. Who is next? Google is also pushing for him to be disbarred. Google is, or people are?
Well, the story I've heard, this may not be accurate either, is that people complained to the bar about trying to get him disbarred, and then he doxed them. But it turns out, according to Jeremy the Quartering, he wasn't actually doxing them. He was displaying information that was already public, and then YouTube banned him for that. And this is unclear. I don't know if that's confirmed.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share the show with your friends. Be the notification you want to see in the world. We're going to have a members-only uncensored show over at timcast.com at about 11. You don't want to miss it, so become a member at Timcast. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me at Timcast. Joel, you want to shout anything out?
No, I guess... check out the Babylon Bee. Same deal. We've been censored on a lot of the big tech platforms. So if you want to see our stuff, sign up for our email newsletter. We'll send our daily news right to your inbox, and you won't miss anything.
Where do people get the books?
The books available anywhere, Amazon or wherever books are sold. So.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. That was great. You guys do great work, so thank you so much. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/wearechange. I have a lot of fun there with Atlas. Today I did a video about foreign policy, Musk, and a lot of other crazy things. youtube.com/wearechange. Hope to see you there.
You guys follow me at Ian Crossland, YouTube, Twitter, Minds. The list goes on anywhere social media is found. And definitely check out Cast Castle on timcast.com. It's excellent. And if you haven't seen the entire arc, you'll want to start from episode 1. Let me know what you think in the comments. I want some feedback.
And we are going to have comments back
They're
on
up.
those.
They're up now, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
We got comments
we were
up, too.
We were trying to get Minds for a while, and we couldn't figure it out.
Mm-hmm. We'll eventually start integrating, especially if Elon buys Twitter, man. I see a big integration process in the dawning on the horizon.
Right on.
Yep, good stuff for sure. Thank you guys all very much for tuning in this evening. Thank you, Joel, for coming. You guys can follow me, as always, on Twitter and Minds.com at SarahPatchlids, as well as SarahPatchlids.me.
We will see you all over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye, guys.